All praises Israel. Give it a second. I think some people then hopped on. Shalom, happy Sabbath, everybody. Shalom. Khan. All right. Give it a second. Double check. See, I don't know why it's still saying upcoming on the YouTube. Let me. That's weird. It's still saying upcoming, even though I made it live. Let me see something. Hold on one second. Let me refresh it. All right. Yeah, man, that's weird. I don't know why it's doing that.
You're not getting it?
It's like I went live, but it's like it's not showing that we live on the channel.
Yeah, live saying it's live.
Oh, live is saying it's live? Okay,
Yeah.
con. Let me see. Okay, yeah, now I see it. It's saying live now. All right, cool. I guess it's just a lag on my end. I'm on the computer. All right, Con, I guess we could just hop into it then, man. We'll just hop into it, and hopefully it might just be a little lag on my computer on my end, so it's all good. So
Is
yeah,
it,
huh?
hold on real quick. Is it a lag on yours?
It was. So yeah,
Hold on real quick. Is it a lag on yours? This is good. Okay.
Ask Live, tell them to comment real quick. Tell them to comment shalom real quick.
Any comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's saying like it's one person in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think it's gonna come in now. Cause I think what was happening was it's like a delay on showing that it was live. Like live, when you click on the video, it'll let you go to the live video, but for some reason it was still saying that it wasn't live to the people, like sending them a notification.
Right.
So now it's doing it. See, now people rolling in. All praises. So I don't know why it was a lag like that. Shalom to everybody online. Shalom, shalom. I hope everybody having a beautiful Sabbath. We got a good good lesson we're gonna go into today, clearing up Passover confusion. You know what I mean? Dealing with certain things like with the Passover count. I think Iram did a beautiful lesson. We're just gonna kind of go behind and kind of talk about a couple of things as well, since we are in the Passover season. And a lot of people have questions on Passover. When is it? How do you keep it? How do you count for it? So on and so forth. So and also too, a lot of people are going into the crescent moon doctrine. And one of the crescent moon doctrine arguments is, well, when you look at the app, the moon is not 100% in XYZ. So we go into that. I think a good place that we can start, Elder. I think a good place we can start is actually how do you use new moon apps, right? Because a lot of people, they don't understand how to actually use the moon apps, right? So
Okay.
they get confused. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how do we do it? What moon apps do we use? X, Y, and Z. So I think we could go into that. So we can go into how do we actually use certain moon apps to help us know when the moon comes in to start for our Passover count.
Okay. One thing that I want to first say is that apps you know, they're cool, but they shouldn't be relied upon as your sole reference. You know, we actually have to do our work and really look at the phases of the moon day by day.
Mm-hmm.
And as you do that for a period of time, then it'll become like second nature to know, you know, when these things are coming in or when they should appear. The apps are good to help kind of calculate ahead of time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one thing is that, you know, the Most High has given the power to, you know, the sciences of the world or whatever for them to get in and calculate, and they're pretty accurate. They're
Mm-hmm.
not 100%, but they're pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that people have to take into consideration is the fact that our day begins at sundown.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a mistake that a lot of people make, is that our day begins at sundown. It doesn't begin at 12 midnight.
Mm.
So what happens is that what the app helps you do is, if you see, for example, let me share my screen really quick. Let me know if
Yep.
you can see it. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. You should be able to share it.
Hold on really quick. Let me pull this up.
So this is actually beautiful. So I think it'd be good, for us to take them through the process of how we create our calendar, and all of the things that we run into as starting the calendar, because this is a big thing that a lot of people are having issues with. Um, you know, so I think this is beautiful. Is it giving you the option to share it?
Hold on one second.
Con.
Here we go.
So clearing up Passover. Oh, there it is. Now, boom, you sharing it now.
We good?
Yep, we good.
Cool. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. So one thing that we have to look at is, let me see if I can move this thing out the way really quick. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. So the way we calculate ours is that, of course, we go by the dark moon, which is the
Mm-hmm.
actual new moon. Okay. Some go by the crescent moon, which would be this phase here. Some go by the full moon, which would be
Hold
this
on
phase
one second,
here.
Elder.
Yeah.
Let me make sure. Everybody can see. It seems like it's just showing. It's just showing your beginning screen. It's not actually showing when you went. It's showing your mouse move, but it's not showing your screen for your moon.
Really.
Yeah. Click on it. Try to click on it.
Still not.
Nuh-uh.
Okay. Hold on real quick. Let me stop sharing it 1 second.
Yeah. Share it one more time and let's see. Because I want everybody to get a good visual on this. This is gonna be good, family. Happy Sabbath, Hebrew daughter, Shalom. Happy Sabbath, Namana Wath. Happy Sabbath, King. Dion King. I think Diani King. Shalom, family. What is that? Dovan Donovan. Salakia. Shalom, family. Uh, Shalom to everybody that is tuning in with us right now. Shalom, all praises.
So it still doesn't come up.
Here now. Let's see. I'm about to see. Yeah, it's still frozen. Let me see. I don't know why it's still like it shows your mouse move, but it doesn't show your actual change of your screen. It shows me, it shows you, and it shows us frozen, but it actually doesn't show your actual
Hmm.
screen change, which is
Uh, all right. Let me try
strange.
one more. Let me try one more thing. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry, you guys. It's
It's
not.
cool.
Hold on. Let me
Feel like they sabotaging our channel, man.
see. I see something's going on.
Man, I swear I ain't never had this problem. Normally, when you share your screen, it's easy. It's no problem. Yeah, it's like when you share for some odd reason, when you share it, it shows your share screen with me and you on it, but it won't show when you click to go to your what you're trying to actually show.
Still not showing it.
Let's see.
So do you see my desktop?
Yeah, I see a desktop. Yep. I see your mouse moving. which is strange.
Okay, but you don't see the program.
No, I don't see the program. You probably gotta go. You probably gotta do something to show the program. I see. Did you click on the program already?
You know what? I did it. Hold on. Hold on a second. It asked me before. Still no?
You gotta share it again, and then I'll click on it to bring it up. It's probably something you gotta do or something. I don't know. I'm not sure.
So it keeps saying share screen yard, entire screen. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to show.
And then put allow, select
Allow.
allow.
Oh yeah, allow your PowerPoint because you're using a PowerPoint. You gotta allow your PowerPoint.
Now try.
Yeah, I did that before. It didn't. It still didn't do it. How about now?
Nah, it's still it's something you gotta do with your PowerPoint. You gotta
Yeah, it's not a PowerPoint. It's just a program. So
oh
I'm putting share my screen. Are you
yeah, yeah.
able to see? Are you able to see like?
Yeah, like go to Lob's phone and look at his phone and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when he's on YouTube. So we have your screen shared, your mouse is moving, but it's not letting your screen actually change.
Okay. So like if I move,
Yeah, it's not even
the,
showing those files over there.
it's showing the files over there.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not even showing the files.
You
Um,
do me a favor, you
the,
want to email me your file and I can do it?
it's not a file. It's the program.
Oh, that's a
You
program.
see what I mean?
Oh, the New Moon program?
Yeah.
What program is it?
Quick phase. You have it?
Oh, nah, I probably have to download it, huh?
Let me see.
Hold on 1 second, family.
If I pick this up, does it move it?
See, your mouse is moving.
Yeah, it's not even moving that screen.
Yeah, so it's not moving nothing over here. Hold on real quick. Let me stop sharing this.
Hmm.
Hold on. Okay. Yeah. So this is tripping. Hold on.
Con.
Hold on. Let me try one more time.
Con.
Share, share screen. Stream pages, FaceTime. So I select entire screen, but it won't come up.
Are you clicking the actual box? Like,
Yeah, so but before when I first did it,
never mind. Let me
it
see.
came up. It said it had quick phase in there. Like did I want to show that?
Yeah. See, it's
But
showing my when I do it, it's showing my entire screen.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Want me
that's
to go
true.
out and come back in?
Yeah, you could do that if you want. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, you can go back and come back in.
uh,
I'll remove. Yeah. All right, family. Sorry for the technical difficulties, man. We're trying to get it for y'all so we can actually show y'all, so the elder can actually show his screen, so we can actually see how to actually count. We can actually see the moons because we want everybody to be able to visualize these things and show the different apps and how we use to be able to count and navigate. And like I said, Brother Iram did a beautiful lesson on that. We want to do it again because we had more people asking more questions. So we definitely want to get into that. So just bear with us. We want to get into how we determine when it is our feast, which, like I said, we've done many lessons on this, but we just want to give more clarification for the people. And I know the elder wanted to bring out some things specifically. Shalom Parah, all praises. I see Shalom Parah, Shalom James, Shalom. Good to hear everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a beautiful Sabbath. All right, elder, Shalom.
that's on. Let's see if it does it this time.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see. Hold on. Let me open it up. Okay, there we go.
There it
You see it now?
is. So,
You gotta share it still.
It's sharing.
It's
yes.
not letting me. You gotta share so I can approve it. Get what I'm saying? So go. Did you hit present?
Yeah.
Like I said, sure.
Did you hit the yeah? You gotta hit present and then you gotta hit the I don't know why I'm not seeing it.
See, in my window it says stop sharing.
Stop sharing it and then try to do it again.
The
Try
browser
capturing a
can't access
different
your screen.
to
Try
see.
capturing a different screen to see if this continues.
You got another browser you can try?
Man, I could probably go through Firefox.
Yeah, like Google Chrome or.
You got
Damn,
Google Chrome.
this is the one I used last time. Hold
It's
on.
probably because it's probably because it's different setup. I don't know.
Okay, hold on real quick.
Probably was on the compatibility issue.
Hold on. Yeah, because we got to show this.
Yeah, I know. It's
For
important. It's important.
real. Hold on. All right.
Shalom Gabar or Gabar. All right, there it is again.
So you see my mouse?
Yep, your mouse is moving.
Do you see it's still up on this? Oh, is that what it? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I move it.
I see your mouse.
You can see the mouse, huh?
Yep, I don't see nothing else though.
Yeah, I'm moving the whole thing and it won't do it.
That's strange.
Probably have to try Google Chrome or.
Hold on. Let me go out again. All right.
Okay, you gonna do Google Chrome? Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
try a different one.
Okay, Con, go ahead.
All right. All right, hold on.
Yeah. I could kick you from the studio too. You could just come back. Yeah, there we go. All right, family. All right, family. These things are important. Let me get a scripture while we wait for the elder. All praises. Let me get a scripture. All right. So we can understand. Let me get Leviticus 23 real quick. All right, because these things are very important. And then I'm going to read Leviticus. Somebody said, let me look at, somebody said, man, Jake's out here teaching that according to the sundown, spring equinox was on the 17th and not the 20th. That's terrible. That's a good little thing that you brought up. Yeah, that's terrible. The equinox it's a number of different things that determine the equinox. So the equinox happens when, remember, what does equinox means? Equinox means when there's a literally the seasons and the day and the night changes. So there has to be a change within the night and the day, and there also has to be a change within the constellations. There also has to be a change within the different crops that grow. So there's three determining factors of how we know we're in the spring season. All right. You got the constellations, you got the crops that grow. All right. And then you got the change of times. So I don't know how brothers is going into different doctrines, talking about a sundial. Another thing, you know what I mean? We don't move off a sun calendar. We go off of a lunar calendar. All right. We go off of a lunar calendar. All right. Let me prove that real quick. Numbers. So we don't go off of the sun. That's the first thing. All right. This is Numbers chapter 10. All right. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, make thee two trumpets of silver, of a whole piece shalt thou make them, and thou mayest use them. So let me get this real quick. 10. Also in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, and in your beginnings of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for memorial before your God. I am the Lord your God. So remember, it says, in the day of your gladness and your solemn days, in the beginnings of your month. So the moon is very pivotal. So we use the moon to determine a month, and the season has to be the change of the seasons, which is the three markers that we're going to go into. I'm trying to wait for the elder so we can actually go into those things. But a sundial wouldn't be what we use to determine our change of the seasons. All right, according to the scriptures. All right, that wouldn't be what it would be. We have to use the constellations. All right. Let me show that. So when you go to Genesis real quick, and I'm trying to wait for the elder. Um, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 14, it says, "And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. So the sun is definitely one of these celestial bodies, but we don't use a sundial. We use different constellations that show up in these different seasons. All right. We use different constellations that show up in the different seasons. We use the differentiation between the light and the day. So when you look at the word equinox, you just look up the word equinox. All right. Show you guys this. All right. So let me share my screen. Khan, no worries. We here. We're gonna wait for the elder. The information is important. He got to share. So equinox. All right. Equinox meaning is a day or an event when day and night are the same length. All right. It comes from the Latin word for equal and night. Equinox happens when the sun crosses the equator, making daytime and nighttime roughly equal all over the world. There are two equinoxes every year, one around March 21st and another around September 22nd. So around springtime, we have an equinox, and then summertime, we have an equinox. Okay, so spring, the beginning of springtime will be an equinox, the beginning of summertime will be an equinox. And you also have solstice, right? Solstice, all right? Solstices, right? The time or date twice each year at which the sun reaches its maximum or minimum declination, marked by the longest and shortest days. All right, about June 21st and December 22nd. So fall will be a solstice and winter will be a solstice. Spring will be equinox and summer will be equinox. So you can't have your equinox before this transpire, because the equinox just simply means that the length of day and night are equal, and it only happens around spring season and summer season. So you can't have an equinox. You can't have an equinox before the beginning of when the equinox come in. All right. So here's the elder. Shalom, King.
Shalom, shalom, shalom,
So hopefully we got it this time.
man, we're gonna see. Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me see.
You
Hold on.
use a different browser?
Yeah, I had to set up a whole another one. Hold on, real quick.
All right. Khan. All praises.
All
So
right.
somebody
Go ahead,
said,
keep teaching. I don't
Khan,
want to interrupt you.
wisdom of Solomon, the beginning, ending, and midst of times, the alteration of turning of the sun, and the change of seasons. Khan, that's a beautiful precept. Absolutely. That's a beautiful precept.
Can I go ahead
All
and
right.
try to share it?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, share it.
All right. Firefox would like to record this computer screen.
Yeah,
They don't want to record it?
nah, you don't.
That's Firefox. If they wanted to record this computer screen. They're trying to record it? Or is it?
I mean,
Oh, you know what? Maybe that's the
Khan.
I have to go to Azure Security.
I think this might work this time. Shalom from Egypt to Israel. Shalom, King. Shalom, shalom. So yeah, we'll go more into the solstices and more into the equinoxes as well. That'll be something we can go
Am I
into as
sharing?
well. So when you share it, it's going to give me the option to approve that you're sharing it, and then I'm going to bring it on. So I still don't see that you are trying to share your screen, so I can approve it.
Okay, hold on 1 second. All right, all right, there I go. I'm sharing screen.
You got to press that box too.
Click on it.
Yeah, you got to click on that box.
No, click on that and then press.
Oh, okay, got it. Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen to fix it.
This one.
Sometimes I be thinking them Apple computers be too complicated, man.
For real.
Shoot, the HPs be just.
Man, my fault.
Nah, you good. It's not you.
All right, so share. What's going on? Unlock the screen by selecting the lock in the bottom of the screen. Unlock this by. Hold on, that's just. Okay.
So
And then, is there like a confirm button or something?
Nah, like this.
Okay.
it's not showing present at the bottom of your StreamYard.
It is, but something keeps popping up though. It keeps saying,
Uh-huh.
check Google Chrome is already checked, unchecked in, reset.
Oh, so it's not when you click it, it's not just giving you the option to share it.
Uh-uh.
Oh,
All right, let's try this. Yeah, it keep Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen.
that's weird.
It keeps wanting to capture my screen.
Yeah, I don't know why it's denying the permission. That's weird.
Uncheck it and check it again.
Your phone will be able to record the contents of your screen until it is quit.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Satan, boy, I tell you, man, he don't want this information to get out. We still gonna bring it out though. Let me see. See if I can find the hold on 1 second, family. Icon. Okay.
I'm sorry, this is working out.
Right, let's try it now.
All right.
Yep, there you go. Select the tab to preview. Now select the middle.
Yeah, it should be like we always do, Lord. I see you. Oh, there we go. Yep, now it work. All praises.
Can you
There
see it?
he is. Yep.
All
Look
right.
at that. All praises. Look at that, man.
Had to put my little tech hat on.
Man, look, all
Little
praises,
IT
Snap.
hat. Yeah, man.
Yeah, there it is.
I let you know it's important for this to be getting done right now.
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right.
All right, we in the game, Elder. So go
Cool,
ahead.
cool.
Put
So,
put it back up. Click it back. You made it go back down. There you go.
all right, cool.
There you go.
All right. So let's deal with this.
Can you make it bigger on your screen? Like full screen?
Yeah, let's do that.
There you go. Yep. Perfect.
Hold on, I don't know if that's yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have to scroll a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is so real quick, Ratazan, just kind of preface the situation that
Okay.
you want me to explain that people are having an issue with.
Okay, so it's two things. So a lot of times what people do is when they use the apps, well, when I see people that hold to the crescent moon, they'll go to the actual app and they'll say, see, it's 95% black, meaning it's not fully black.
Okay.
So how can your new moon start when you have to have 100% blackness? So now people are using the apps trying to find 100%, the app to say 100% dark.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm seeing that people are doing. They're using the apps and they're saying, well, the app says it's 95.9% dark. So that means it's still technically not new.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one thing that we first have to understand, and this is what I was saying before we had the little technical issue, is that you can't go by, you also have to utilize your you can't just rely on an app. First of all, you have to actually look at what's going on, look at, you know, the moon phases visibly for yourself. Get used to that, because that's what our forefathers did. Our forefathers didn't use apps. You know what I mean? But an app now, that, remember, Esau has been given, you know, the technical ability, the technical prowess to go in and calculate. Remember, they stole a lot of the knowledge from our forefathers. So they're able to go in, they're scientists or what have you, are able to go in and calculate the phases. And they're pretty accurate for the most part. Even the apps tell you that the phases and the images that you see, remember, they're only photos that are placed into a computer software that kind of mimics and tries to keep the phase in accordance to what you see in the sky. That's what the apps are doing. So they're pre-calculating for you. One thing that people have to understand is that, remember, our days begin in the evening. Okay. So the apps don't take that into consideration. So when you see a new moon, like for example, let's go to March. Okay. So make sure I'm in March 2023. Okay, good. So we see here on the 21st. Okay. Can you see that where my
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we kept the new moon. You can see it tells you that that's the new moon. All right, but we follow the dark moon, as we went into that scripture. We went into that lesson, you know, a few weeks ago, about the new moon. Was it the dark moon, crescent moon, full moon, what have you? You know, we've been in and shown that the new moon is the dark phase of the moon. Okay. Now the funny thing is that the people that use apps and don't acknowledge that, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, especially when they want to deal with percentages. So we look at the new moon that came in on the 21st. Okay. Now what happens is that if you look on a new moon date list, or you go to NASA or something like that, and you get the Naval Observatory new moon dates, and it may say March 21st. But one thing you have to look at is, when you click on it, is that you have to look at what the time frame is that the moon is actually new. Okay. And that's something, because what can happen is that the moon can become new at, say, 1 a.m. It can actually physically become new at 1 a.m. But what will Esau do on the app? He's going to say, because remember, they acknowledge a new day at 12 midnight. So they will put the 22nd. So, but technically, remember, we look at the new day beginning at sundown. So when the sun sets, the moon phase may not go accordingly at that very instance when the sun sets. You see what I mean? So that's what people try to look at, the percentages. Okay. So we see that the percentage of the moon, hold on, let me go back real quick.
And I think it's key too, which I know you're going to get into. We actually still have to count the number of days.
Absolutely.
Because it's 30 days in the month. So I know you're going to get into it. So
right.
Yeah.
So and that's what they're showing you even on these phases. Okay, that there's 30 days. So what happens is that when we look on the 21st, if you can look up here, you can see Tuesday, March 21st, when we kept the new moon. It was new. You can see right here, it says new moon. Percentage of full 0.1%, right? So now what happens is that but check it out. it actually, hold on, let's find out. We can see actually when it actually became new. Okay, now,
Mm-hmm.
see, this is a good thing about this program is because you could kind of do the phase by the hour, by the minute, and by the
Mm-hmm.
day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we see that last crescent right here, and boom. And
Mm-hmm.
if we look at the time,
Mm-hmm.
hold on real quick. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I think something's going on with my. Okay, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I could see
So
the
you can
time.
see at 0.1, it's not going to get 0.0, it's going to get 0.1.
Mm-hmm.
That's the closest to 0% you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now you look at the time frame on March 21st, the new moon was actually made new at 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
You see that?
Mm-hmm.
And since we're on the West Coast, it will be Pacific Standard Time, it'd be 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So we would keep the new moon that evening, okay,
Mm-hmm.
March 21st. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So what people get confused at, so to keep it simple, what you would do so that people aren't confused with all of this and algorithms and all that, look at the date the new moon comes in, and you would, for the most part, keep it in the evening, just as long as the new moon doesn't come in after 12 midnight. Then you would keep it you would keep it that same evening, but you have to kind of look at that too. And those are
Mm-hmm.
lessons that you could go over more in detail. We're trying to just kind of clear up some of this Passover discrepancy.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that we observed the new moon on March 21st, we
Mm-hmm.
would keep the Passover. Okay, we can't. Now remember, what's the count for Passover? Iran went over it. He beautifully went into it to show you that the Passover is kept on the 14th day of the first month at even, which
Yes.
would be the 15th day of the month,
Now,
right?
because some people say that they get. I heard brothers arguing like for hours over a simple concept. The 14th at even, is it the is that the 15th or the 14th day? Is that the actual meaning the 13th at even, which is 14th at even, which
Mm-hmm.
means then the next evening would be the 15th, meaning your Passover wouldn't technically start on the same day. You get what I mean? So
Right.
people were actually saying that Passover actually starts on the 13th at even because that's the 14th at even, and then unleavened bread starts the following night.
Okay.
You also
See,
had that confusion too.
well, that's one thing that I cover in my book. And that's one thing that if people have confusion with the calendar, get the book because I put almost 60 pages just the calendar alone, going over the day, going over how to calculate when the day begins, how to count for Passover. It's very easy. Hold this. I'm gonna actually go off of this really quick and
Okay, Con. Yeah, whatever you need.
just so we could get the scriptures on it.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be the 14th day at even. Hold on a second.
You want to stop? Okay, Con.
It wouldn't be the 14th day at even, meaning that that's the beginning of the 14th day. It's
Mm-hmm.
showing you it's at the 14th day at even, meaning the afternoon or the ending of the 14th day. Because
Mm-hmm.
remember, once the sun sets, it will no longer be the 14th day. And
Mm-hmm.
an example for this is in the book of Leviticus. Let's see this with the Day of Atonement, how the Most High explains it, of how
Okay.
we calculate these days.
Okay, Con.
Now
Yeah, because
pay close attention to this. Okay.
23.
Everybody was sorry for the technical difficulty earlier, but we're gonna get into this and we're gonna make it real clear.
Con.
Okay. So Leviticus 23, and let's read it verse 26.
Leviticus chapter 23, verse 26.
Now
And
watch
the
this.
and
Go
the
ahead.
Lord spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month
On
there
the
shall
10th, now he's giving you he's using the Day of Atonement as an example of how we calculate to be prepared to keep the feast correctly. He says also on the 10th day, the 10th day of the 7th month. Read on.
also on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall
Go ahead.
be an holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord. And
Read on.
ye
Now,
shall
let me stop real quick. And I want
Mhm.
to see if everybody's following along. What day did the Most High say Day of Atonement would be on?
Mm.
What day of the month did he say? Put it in your chats. I want to see if everybody's following along with this, because this is how we're going to keep it simple. Okay. Let's read it again in case they missed it. Let's start at verse 27.
Okay. It says, verse 27, also on the 10th day of this 7th month.
Now stop right there.
Uh-huh.
What day did he say?
On the 10th day.
The 10th day of the 7th month, right? Y'all see that?
Yeah.
The 10th day. Okay. Now he goes into about the Day of Atonement, right? Now watch this. Read verse 32.
Verse 32. It says, it shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest.
So the Day of Atonement is a Sabbath. It's a high holy day. It's a Sabbath of rest. We can't do any work. And it's kept on what day?
The 10th day.
The 10th day. Read on. Well, watch this. Read it from the top again.
Verse 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls.
And you should afflict your soul. Now watch this. Now here's the time of when you started. Read.
In the 9th day of the month at even.
Now, it tells you that Day of Atonement is on the 10th day of the month. But when would we begin to observe it? On the 9th day of the month at even. So what does that mean? When the 9th day is ending at evening, what starts? The 10th day of the month. Our days start in the evening. Keep on reading. Watch this. Read on. Read it from the top one more time.
Verse 32 again from the top.
Yep.
It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even.
Now, real quick, flip over and read verse 27 again.
Verse 27. It says, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement.
So now, is that a contradiction? Is that confusion? Which one is it, Lord? Is it the 10th day or is it the 9th day of the month at even? But what is the Most High saying to you? He's saying the 9th day of the month when it's ending, the 9th day of the month at even or the evening, the ending of that 9th day begins the 10th day of the month. So he's giving you an indicator, because if he just said the 10th day and left it at verse 27, you wouldn't really even know when to start Day of Atonement. You might start it in the afternoon. You might start it at 12 day when you wake up. But no, you have to, the day begins when the sun sets on the 9th day. That evening begins the 10th day, Day of Atonement, meaning we're on a fast. And if you eat anything within that day, what happens? You're in violation, or you're in transgression, right? So now let's read verse 32 again.
It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even.
And the 9th day, so the ending or the end portion of the evening of the 9th day, which will begin the 10th day of the month. Read on.
In the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even.
From the evening unto evening, read.
Shall ye celebrate your Sabbath.
So the Most High is very clear here. He's showing you from the 9th day of the month at evening, which would begin the 10th day, until the 10th day at evening, the Day of Atonement will be over. So now when the Most High says the 14th day of the month at evening, what day is he saying for Passover? The beginning of the 15th.
The 15th day.
Y'all see that?
Absolutely.
See, this is where I go to Book of Numbers. Let's hear him say it.
What you want, Numbers 10? Very simple. So, like I said, I had so many people that was arguing literally on when Passover starts. Literally arguing over when Passover start. And some were starting the Passover on the 13th at even, because they were thinking the 14th at even was the 13th at even. Yeah. But really, all they had to understand is that the 14th at even is actually talking about the latter portion of the 14th, because it says that it's also the 15th day, because we stop eating unleavened bread on the 14th at even. That's literally when we stop eating unleavened bread. And Passover is the same as unleavened bread. They're not different.
Exactly. And we got to show that, because some people think that there's the Passover for one day, and then that 7 days of unleavened bread follows that.
Right. Yes.
That's another thing too. So let's read Numbers chapter 28.
Okay, Con.
And he's going to tell you what it is. So now we read in Day of Atonement where the Most High said the 10th day of the month of the 7th month, you have a Day of Atonement. Then he's more peculiar and gives you when it starts. He says the 9th day of the month at evening. So the ending of the 9th day, that evening when the sun sets, it would begin the 10th day of the month. That's when you start your Sabbath. If you go beyond that and you do any work, you break the Sabbath. So the Most High is giving you indicators from evening to evening. You celebrate your Sabbath. So is not the first day of Passover a Sabbath?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, and it says the 14th day at evening, which would really be what? The beginning, the 15th day. But since our days start in the evening, it would end the 14th day and begin the 15th day when the sun goes down. Okay, watch this. Numbers chapter 28 and read verse 15. Read verse 16.
Numbers chapter 28, verse 16. And in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of the Lord.
Read on.
And in the 15th day of this month is
so
the
now
feast.
He's explaining to you that it's the 15th day. Okay, we just read the 14th day at evening when the Passover would be. You can read that in Exodus 20. You can read it in Leviticus 23, as we just read. It's all through the scriptures, the 14th day at evening. But in Numbers, he's actually even telling you the 15th day. Okay, go ahead.
7 days shall unleavened bread be eaten. And the first day shall be an holy convocation.
And that's why he's telling you the 14th day at evening, which will what? Begin the 15th day of the month. Okay. So the scriptures are showing us this clearly. And he uses it, and it's not just for Passover, it's for Day of Atonement, it's for the Sabbath. When do we observe the Sabbath? From Friday, we always say what? Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, right? So that means when Friday, the sun sets on Friday, the evening of Friday, what happens? It begins the Sabbath, the 7th day, until so-called Saturday ends, and then it starts the first day of the week. So it's the same thing with the feast, okay? However, the difference is that the Most High inserts numbers so that, or the numbers of the days, so that we don't get confused and that we don't end up breaking the Sabbath. So he says, look, if you know from evening to evening you celebrate your Sabbath, from the 14th day of the month at evening to what? The 15th day of the month at evening is that first Sabbath of Passover unleavened bread. And then what? 7 days later, we have another Sabbath, which would begin on the 21st day. Okay, watch this. He's going to even explain even further. Let's go to the book of Exodus.
We debated a dude like this on our channel, man. He just couldn't understand. He just wanted to separate Passover and unleavened bread for whatever reason. I'm like, it's the same day.
Yeah, and that's what happens. It's the same exact day. Okay. Exodus chapter 20, Exodus 12.
And
Exodus 12, we can start at verse 18.
Okay. Exodus chapter 12, verse 18. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, ye shall eat unleavened bread.
So there it is again. On the 14th day of the month, when?
At even.
At even. So beginning what? That 14th day at evening will begin the 15th day of the month. But because our day begins in evening, the Most High is clarifying it, saying the 14th day. The end of the 14th day begins the 15th day. Okay.
So unleavened bread doesn't just start on the 15th. It starts the 14th at even.
Exactly.
Clearly.
And Passover does too.
Exactly.
They're all on this. It's only 7 days of the feast. If you add the Passover and separate it from the week for 7 of the unleavened bread, now you make the feast 8 days long.
Facts.
You see what happens? So the Most High made clear they think that the Passover is his own day, and then after that you have 7 days of unleavened bread. But that's retarded, because on the feast, on the actual day of Passover, you're not supposed to have any leaven. You're supposed to eat unleavened bread, correct?
Yes.
For 7 days.
For 7 days. So when does it start?
Exactly.
14th at even. Okay.
Absolutely. They're together. Okay. And this is going to clarify it. It says that, read that again from the top.
Verse 18, Exodus chapter 12, verse 18. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at even.
At even. So ending the 14th day, beginning the 15th day. Go ahead.
Ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even.
So if you count from the 14th day at even to the 21st day at even, the end of that, what are you going to get? You're going to get 7 days. So how long is the Passover feast?
7 days.
7 days. Are they set apart? They can't
No.
be, or else that will make the whole feast 8 days long.
Mm.
Y'all see that? Let's verify it even further. Get Ezekiel 45. Get Ezekiel 45. We're coming back to the phases of the moon.
Con.
We just want to get this understood so that you guys can see how it's how it's calculated and how it's counted. Ezekiel 45. Let's read verse 21.
Ezekiel chapter 45, verse 21.
Yeah.
In the first month, in the 14th day of the month.
Now, what did it say? In the 14th day, in the first month, which we know when we keep Passover, the month of Abib, as the scriptures say, on the 14th day of the month. Go ahead.
Ye shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days.
A feast of how long?
7 days.
So the Passover itself is a feast of 7 days. It's not the Passover one day and then 7 days a feast of unleavened bread. The first day of Passover would be Passover and day 1 of unleavened bread, all on that same day. The lamb is cooked, the bitter herbs are eaten, the unleavened bread is kept, and then after that, when the sun sets again, it will be day 2 of unleavened bread. And when the sun sets again, it will be day 3, and so on up until day 21. Okay, from 14 day at even to 21 day at even is 7 full days. Okay, so read that from the top again.
It says, in the first month, in the 14th day of the month, ye shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days.
So the Passover is the feast of 7 days. Go ahead.
Unleavened bread shall be eaten.
For 7 days on the Passover, and the other 6 days of unleavened bread must be eaten. Okay, so now that we understand that the unleavened bread and the Passover occur on that same first day, it makes more sense when we go to the book of Luke. Let's go to the book of Luke. And let's get chapter 22 and verse 1.
Luke chapter 22, verse 1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover.
Clearly, they're the same. They're not set apart. They are the same. Get Matthew 26. So nothing changed from the Old Testament to the New. Matthew 26. And because that's another one. Some people don't think Christ ate the Passover.
It's crazy. 26.
He didn't eat it. He didn't eat the Passover. He couldn't. He was the Passover. Well, you're going to be rudely awakened when you read these scriptures. Matthew 26, that's verse 17.
Okay, Con. Matthew chapter 22.
26. I'm sorry, 26.
Okay,
Matthew 26, verse 17.
And verse 17. Now the first day of the feast of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Yahushua, saying unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare for thee to eat the Passover?
So now, what day did they go to him on?
The first day of the feast of unleavened bread.
So they're coming on the first day of unleavened bread to ask Christ, well, where should we keep the Passover? So now, is the Passover separated from unleavened bread?
No, it's the same feast.
Right, because then it would read on the day of Passover, they came to Christ and say, well, when can we keep the feast of unleavened bread tomorrow?
Right.
They came on the day of unleavened bread to keep the Passover. Do y'all see that? So are they separated?
No, not at all.
How long is the Passover week? 7
days.
From the beginning of the scriptures to the end of the scriptures. There's no way around it. From the 14th day of even is the same as saying the 15th day of the month. That's it. Just like on Day of Atonement, when he says the 10th day is the same as saying the 9th day at even. That simple. Okay. If you add and separate the day, make Passover its own day, and then you put 7 days of unleavened bread behind that, you make it an 8-day feast when that's nowhere in scripture. Nowhere in the scriptures does it say the feast is 8 days. It said clearly from the prophet Ezekiel said it's 7 days. We read here that they asked Christ about keeping the Passover on the first day of unleavened bread. So it's showing you that that day is the same when they keep the Passover. They offer the lamb, they eat bitter herbs and unleavened bread. The Passover meal that's recorded in Exodus chapter 12, they keep on that first day. And then the next day after that will be day 2 of unleavened bread. The day after that will be day 3, then day 4, day 5, day 6, and then day 7. What happens? It's a Sabbath. It will be no work to be done, what have you. And then that, once the sun sets after that, Feast of Unleavened Bread will be over. Okay. So those are the things that's how we have to understand that. Okay.
So now we got our count. Our count starts on the 14th at even.
Right.
For the completion of the 7-day feast.
Absolutely. So now I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna share my screen again.
Oh, yep.
Okay. All right. We good?
Yes, sir.
Right,
and then it's another thing people try to say too.
How
can you count? How can you start your count when you can't see the moon? You can't see a dark. I know, man. It's crazy. But go ahead.
But here's the thing. How can you? Here's another thing too. Wasn't it raining yesterday? Wasn't it cloudy?
I think so. Yeah. It's been raining.
California. It was pretty cloudy. Well, not yesterday. Wednesday. I'm sorry. Wednesday, when the crescent moon observers kept it. Y'all didn't see no sliver. Okay, that's the thing. So people always say that. Well, how you can't see? You can't see. You can't. What are you gonna do when you can't see it when it's cloudy or if it's raining and you can't see it? Did the moon? Is it not still there?
Con, I think you did a great job by getting people to understand. Like, what do we do with the days that we don't see the crescent moon? So we gotta wait for that first sliver, but then so we subtract days. Like, what do we do before we can tell that it's? But I know you covered that already.
We covered it. According to tradition, so-called tradition, they would just keep it on the 31st day of the month, which is simply the day after the dark moon. And remember, I covered that they knew what conjunction was. Why would there be a name for this particular dark moon? Because remember, the moon is only dark because it's completely in front of the sun. And the moon gets its light from the sun, and that's what makes it dark. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we see you.
Okay, cool. So let's go back to our count. So we kept the new moon of Abib, or the first moon of the month, on March 21st, right here. Clearly lets us know it's a dark moon. Some, if you notice the sliver here or the crescent, as some may observe, they kept it on the 22nd. Okay. So this is where you start to see why people's feast days start to differ. Okay. Those that kept the full moon, I don't know if they kept this particular full moon or they keep the next full moon on the time when we would be keeping our Passover. Okay. So either way, you're going to get all these different dates. And then you have those that follow the lunar Sabbath doctrine, which probably might be keeping their Passover sometime in August or some madness out of season, because the Passover is always supposed to be in the spring.
I think they already kept it.
What?
I think they already kept it.
That's the confusion with these with people when we don't understand how to calculate the Most High's feast. Israel wasn't keeping feasts on all different types of days. They kept it on one day, and they had to have one doctrine. Okay, so the scriptures. That's why when you go back and watch the new moon video that we did, it clearly goes into it. The crescent moon is not scriptural at all. Okay, now what happens is that those that observe the 21st as their new moon, this simply means that this is the phase of the moon that shows you the beginning of the month. Okay, and because this is the first new moon of spring, which is Abib, this is the first beginning of our year. This is the beginning of the Hebrew year. Okay, so what we would simply do, as Iram went into in his lesson last week, we would count what? 15 days, right? So this will be count as day 1, because remember, you can't start your count here or you miss a complete day. That's what what some people make the mistake. They start saying 1, 2, no. Remember, at evening begins your day. This begins the first day. From evening to evening is day 1. From evening here to evening here would be day 2. From evening here to evening here would be day 3. From evening here to evening here would be day 4, and so on. Okay. Then you would get to, so we can see now that the month expires, the month of March expires before we get to the 15th day of the month. Okay. Let me go to the next one. Hold on real quick.
April.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some. Okay, here we go. There we go. So now we get into April. So now, once we see that this would be when the sun sets on this day, this Tuesday, April 4th, that would be the 14th day of evening, beginning the 15th day of the month. This is when those that check that began their feast day on the correct new moon, which is a dark moon, would have their Passover on April 4th. That is exactly 15 days from the new moon that came in on March 21st. Does that make sense? Okay. So now those that practice the crescent moon will keep theirs on this day. Now, what happens is they may stick their chests out and say, well, look, the moon is full. We keep it on the full moon. We keep it at 100% and blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not scriptural. First of all, that has nothing to do. Most High never said, look for 100%. Look for this. When you look at this particular phase, here it is right here. What is it? What do you see right there? What does that say?
Full moon, because the moon can appear full
moon.
for a couple days. Yes.
Full moon. But now what they try to say is, well, see, it's only at 98.3%. But remember, how long does a day last? A day lasts for 24 hours, right? Remember, the moon is always moving, always consistently moving. Okay. So what's going to happen is, no problem. What time is this here? This is at 3 p.m. on Tuesday, April 4th. Let's go to sundown. I'm gonna add a time in here. The sun sets now in this year. Let's just say
7:38. Okay.
I'm gonna even do it a little better than that. I'm gonna give it early. I'm gonna give it a little something, a little more. So we're gonna say 7 p.m. Let me add that in there. There. To do it. Oh, I didn't hit apply. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Bear with me 1 second. Let me hit apply. There we go. So 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock on Tuesday, April 4th, when we will begin having our Passover, it's at 98.7, right? At sundown. Okay. No worries. It's still a pretty full moon. But
it's full 98%.
Right, now remember, when does that first day of Passover officially end, though?
At even.
Which would be
day.
What? The very next
the next day, 15th
day,
at evening.
Right, which would be April 5th. Right? Okay, so it would end April 5th.
April 5th, sundown.
Right. So you have between that April 4th and April 5th that the moon can actually be 100%, but it's already full. You're not going to be able to tell the difference, to be honest with you. So let's just see when we go. Let's just get this to 100%. And let's see what time it will be and what day. Let's get it to 100%.
It's just funny to me how people that observe the crescent moon.
Wait.
Okay, Khan. Yeah, go ahead.
Now we had 100%. Okay.
Okay, Khan.
So it became actually 100% at 6 o'clock. It's still the same day as Passover that we kept that it became full, that it became 100%. If we want to be technical about it, it's still on the same day we kept. The only difference is that it became full on the second part. And this happens every month. Remember, we keep our days begin at sundown, and they may not always coincide with the phase of the moon. But rest assured, it's going to be full because we know that the 15th day is the middle of the month, right?
So Elder, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah,
it's dealing with this. I'm not deviating. So sundown would be 7 o'clock, right? Can you go to 7 o'clock real quick?
I am at 7 o'clock. Am I?
No, you at 6
Okay,
p.m.
I'm sorry.
Go to 7.
Okay, I just pump it a little bit more. That's 7 o'clock right there.
7. And then, so technically, I know Iram said the sun goes down technically like around 7:38.
Yeah.
So can you go to like 7:38?
I'll go to 8 o'clock.
Yeah, go to 8 because it goes down a little bit, like at 7:38, right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
Even still, what the point that I'm trying to make is that even still, we kept our full moon. We brought our full moon in. So if they're going to keep their Passover or their full moon at 8 o'clock, because the sun's going to go down, they're not going to keep their feast within the full moon being brought in. It's going to be already over if they want to argue that.
Exactly, because it's the same thing. Remember, the moon is only going to technically be 100% for like a few seconds. Remember, the programs themselves tell you these are estimations. They are not accurate all images. You see what I mean? Because it would have to be in real time. It's not. All they're doing is taking snapshots by the minute to show you. But the moon and the sun are always moving. Remember, the scriptures say they don't faint in their watches. So they're consistently moving and going through their phases. But so at the end, before the Passover day that we kept, the moon became 100%. If you want to be a stickler on that. Now, if they want to say, well, look, when we go outside, it's 100%, but it's only going to be 100% for a couple hours, then it's going to start waning. They're in the same situation. So watch this. Let's push it a little further. So now you come in, the crescent moon observers are keeping their new moon. They're 100%. They're sticking, they're beating their chest. We're doing it right. But then what happens is now immediately diminishes by 2 a.m. in the morning. It's already waning. So they're only, so technically, when we keep ours, the moon will be at its fullest. If they keep theirs, the moon will be at its fullest. But
it's the same thing.
This is going to be the same thing if you're dealing with percentages. But now my question to them would be this. I want to go back to 100%. So if you're using an app and you're going by 100% to say, see, we're doing it right. We are doing it right, buddy. Okay. I want to see what the moon looks like at 0% to start. Since we're dealing with percentages, let's go to 0%. We had 12%, 0.1%. What do you see?
A dark moon.
And what's that? What's this say right here?
New moon.
So how is it that you want to be 100% with your full moon that begins the middle of the month, but you won't acknowledge the 0% that begins that 100%?
Conjunction. They'll acknowledge. Okay. So
thank you. So if you want to talk that 100%, then I want to talk about the 1%. I want to talk about the 0%.
Right.
Because what did the Most High say? A light that decreaseth in her perfection. So we know that the full moon appears on the 15th day. You understand? So now if the full moon appears and is perfected on the 15th day, let's shoot to the 0% 15 days before that. And what do we get? A new moon, and it's dark. Man, so technically they fell on their own sword.
Yeah, because it's
you see
only
what I'm saying? Because
and
that happens when you're not dealing in the scriptures. You're dealing with traditions of men, and we covered that in that video. But do y'all see that? Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
See what I'm saying? So if you want to talk about the 100%, you tell them, well, let's talk about the 0%. How are you going to go on an app and say, well, it's 100%, it's 100%. Okay, well then let's shoot up to 0% and tell me then why are you not, if you're going to acknowledge your full moon at 100 to say you're keeping things right, then why would you not use that same program and go to 0%, the beginning of your 100%? And what do you get? You get a dark moon.
And not to mention, just for those that are just coming in, regardless if we keep our dark moon and keep our Passover on the 14th at even, our full moon still's coming in on our same day that we keep our feast.
Absolutely.
And your full moon still comes in on the day that you keep your feast for that short period of time. So we're both in the ballpark of full moon. But the point is, why do you acknowledge conjunction with the full but not with the new?
Exactly. Thank you. And then remember in the beginning, what the Most High say, darkness was upon the face of the deep. Darkness was first, right? So darkness, and now this is going along with what the Most High's creation said. Darkness appeared. Then it said, let's deal with that real quick. Let's go to Genesis.
Yeah, you cut this pretty bad in that one video.
And it's funny because Cat came to me, oh, what about the 100%? I said, okay, it's cool. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal, because technically you're not going to be able to tell the difference between a 98.9% or a negative 96 or whatever. You're not going to be able to, with your naked eye, tell the difference of that.
So could Israel tell with their naked eye the difference between 98.8%?
But we weren't worried about that because we always knew that the full moon would appear on the 15th day, and it would be a 24-hour period that moon had to be full. That's it.
Bingo.
And it's only 100% for a couple of hours because it's consistently moving. Remember, it's waxing and then it's waning. It's not going to hold 100% for 3 days. And no, the moon is constantly going through a cycle every single second. And Esau can't keep up with the way that the moon is transitioning because it's not on his time. That's the Most High's power. That's why he puts a disclaimer on all of his programs that says these phases are approximations. So at least he's being honest about that. He's telling you, look, we really can't count the phase because we can't keep up with the Most High schedule. However, these are close approximations.
Mm-hmm.
So technically 100% could have come in way earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the point is that we're not looking at, it got to be 100%. But even if you want to play that route, that's cool. Because guess what? If you keep the Passover on the 4th of April, your new moon is still, your full moon, is still going to come in at 100% before that day ends. Mm-hmm. And if you keep your Passover on the 5th, then your full moon is only going to last. It'll be over by midnight. Mm-hmm. And then it starts the waning process. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? But read that in Genesis chapter 1, and let's read verse 2.
And that's real quick. I'm gonna read this, but that's a good point, because even if we keep ours and it's 95 or 98%, it's still going to say full moon. Exactly. When they keep theirs, their moon is only going to be full for a couple hours, and then it's going to say it's waning. Yeah. If you want to go by that phase situation. But yeah, Genesis 1 and 2. Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
So darkness with the Most High was always first. That's why, like I said, I'm not going to let him off the hook. Then I want to talk about the 0%. You see what I mean? So these are the things that zero is not going to get to 0.0. 0.1 is probably the closest we're going to get to 0%. But you see that the moon is dark. Why? Because that's conjunction. The moon is directly in front of the sun. So the moon is actually full, but the light is on the opposite side, away from Earth. But when we get to the 15th day of the month, what happens? Now the moon is directly parallel with the sun. You see what I mean? And so therefore now that's what makes the moon full, because all of its light is beaming from the sun directly on the moon's surface with no hindrance, and therefore it's going to appear full. And then as it's continuing on and moving slightly out of phase, then it starts to wane.
You got a question too, Elder. Somebody said, Shalom Kings, I agree with the new moon observance, but what I was recently told that the crescent moon observation is because while it's crescent here in the U.S., it's new moon in Israel. So basically, that doctrine, you got to keep it based off of Jerusalem.
No, that can't happen, because remember, the Most High said he created the moon as a sign of the world. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets a crescent. Everybody gets a full moon. Everybody gets a new moon all across the world, because remember, it's going to be new moon. It's going to be a new moon for 24 hours. And it takes 24 hours for the sun and moon to make their rotations around the earth. See what I mean? No, we have to go by where we are. And that's a part of the lesson we got to get to too, because some people say, well, what about you can't keep the feast except for being in Jerusalem? You got to go by Jerusalem time. You can't you got to go by where you are. Because if, like, for example, let's look at the Sabbath day. Those that live on the East Coast are 3 hours ahead of us, right? So when they would keep their weekly Sabbath, say if the sun sets at 7 p.m. In California, it's only 4 p.m. The sun's not even down yet. How can we celebrate a Sabbath? We have to wait till what? The ordinances that the Most High laid out. You see what I'm saying? That's how Israel dwelt even in captivity. I'm going to show you that. It's no way that you're going to be able to, you can't go according to somewhere else when you're in a whole nother location. You can't do that. You got to go by the ordinance and the season of where you're at. So then this is why Christ broke it down. So again, if we want to be sticklers on the 100%, we got to also talk about the 0%. Y'all understand what I'm saying? We go to 100 and see a full moon. Then I want to go to the beginning of that, and let's see what it looks like at the beginning. So this is clearly showing you that this is the beginning of the moon's phases. And then it begins to what? It starts to wax. It waxes every day. Then it gets to day 15. Then it's a full moon. Then it happens. After that, it starts to wane. And then it keeps going day by day, until it becomes new again. It ain't this dark moon is not there for nothing. Remember, the Most High said darkness was upon the face of the deep first. Let's continue reading verse 2.
Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep.
And darkness was it. Read on.
And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And
Uh-huh.
God said, let there be light.
Now
And there
let
was
their
light.
light start to appear. And that's what starts to happen with the moon. Now light is appearing. Not only the moon, but we also have the sun that does its thing as well. Okay, read on.
It says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God
Uh-huh.
saw the light that it was good. And
Right.
God divided the
Did
light
what?
from divided the
Uh-huh.
light from the darkness.
So there's two divisions in the month, darkness and light, just like there's two divisions in the day, evening and morning, darkness and light. That's why you have the beginning, which is your new moon, which is dark. Then you have your second half of the month, which is the full moon, and it starts to wane from there. Darkness and light. That's what the Most High created from the beginning. Like, again, you want to talk 100%? I want to see the 0%. Why are you not observing the 0%? You want to say, light, the full moon, it's only at 98%. Then why the hell you starting your month at 4% or 4 and 6%?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Does that even make sense?
No, hypocrisy.
They want to say, oh, you start the moon at 100%. Ah, okay, well, then why the hell are you starting your month at 6% and not 0? Well, see, and watch the excuses fly. Watch the excuses fly. Then they're gonna go into Philo, and they're gonna go on all this other mess. And I already showed you about Philo's discrepancies big time.
Yeah, the feast every day.
Philo lied so much, it's not even funny, but it is what it is. But you know, like I said, this is not an attack on anybody. You know, we having a little fun with it, but you know, we really have to sit down and deal with it. You know what I mean? And this is where you're studying, and you're man, trust me, I had the telescopes. I was looking at the moon for years, every day, you know, taking notes, checking this out, researching all of these situations that's going on. You know, and not just looking at the apps and closing the book. No, you have to get this. You have to do your own observation, your own calculations, your own. Go back and look at how the moon is moving. Look at how it's changing seasons. You notice that the moon waxes from right to left, you know, during the winter. Then it waxes from bottom to top when you get to the spring. This is because the earth is tilting. You see what I mean? So there's so many things that the Most High put in the heavens for us to look at so that we can be able to calculate and know what's going on. You have the stars that's involved. You have constellations. You understand? So these are things that, and there's a lot that we could talk about with the program, but the program is just an assistant, is a tool to help you. But because some want to become sticklers and try to condemn others and say, oh, nah, you ain't 100%, then y'all ain't 100% either, because y'all starting your month way off from what the percentage is supposed to be. You see what I'm saying? So these are the things that we have to look at. So again, they want to be sticklers of it. Then, like I said, show me your 0%. And if it's a crescent, then I'll listen to you. You feel me?
Somebody said Sabbath. I don't know what you mean by that, Ezra. Sabbath to Sabbath is technically 8 days. I don't know what you mean by that. So if you can clarify your question or your statement, then we can address it accordingly. But
because what they're trying to say is that the Sabbath only lasts for 8 hours for like half the day, which makes no sense, because remember, we just read in the Passover week, Feast of Unleavened Bread, the first day is a Sabbath. It said from evening unto evening. Then we read that in Leviticus 23 about Day of Atonement.
You should celebrate your Sabbath. Absolutely.
From evening to evening shall you celebrate your Sabbath, right? And then in Exodus 12, it said from the 4th day at even to the 21st day of the month at evening. That means 7 evening to evening counts. You see what I'm saying? But the Sabbath itself, all days are 24 hours or 24 hours long. And let's finish reading that. So it said, he's divided the darkness from the light. Go ahead.
And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
He called the light day and darkness night. Okay. The sun rules the day, the moon rules the night. Those are the divisions that the Most High created. You have the first part of the day begins in the evening. So why the heck would the first part of the month begin with some light? You see what I'm saying? This is when we start switching up the Most High's ordinances. No, he made everything consistent. He tells you, look, a new day begins when the sun is completely down. We just read that. The 9th day at evening starts the 10th day. So when the moon is waning and its last little piece of light is diminished and it becomes dark, that's a new month. Just like when it's dark, it begins a new day.
Okay. He cleared it up. He said that was actually a response to Egypt, to Israel. So they probably was talking about something else. Salakia, King. Salakia.
Yeah. So the evening he called the night he called day, or the darkness he called day, and the light he called day, and the darkness he called night. I'm sorry. Read on.
And it says, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and evening and the morning were the first day.
Evening and the morning were the first day. So evening and morning, that 12-hour period of darkness and that 12-hour period of light, known as evening and morning, darkness and light, night and day, whatever you want to call it. Those two divisions make up a complete day. So just like we're dealing with the month, you have half the moon, half the month in darkness, half the month in light. That's why you have a dark moon that waxes to full and a full moon that waxes to dark again, light and dark. These are the divisions of the Most High. Again, 0%. You see what I'm saying? So that's what the Most High is showing us through that.
What's that scripture, Elder, that says that the Lord created everything to have a polar opposite? I think it's in
Ezra.
Yeah, can we?
Yeah, let's
get
that.
that one. Yeah, that's a good one because it shows that the Lord divides everything in its polar opposite. You got hot, you got cold, you got full, you got empty, you got dark, you got light. You know what I mean? So how can if God divided everything, how can your new month start with light? If the Most High created everything to be a division of itself.
There you go.
Yeah.
Balance. Sirach chapter 33.
Sirach, okay. Yeah, that's the one I want. Let me see. Sirach 33 and what?
You could start at actually verse 15 is the one you want, but we could start a little bit ahead of that.
13.
Yep.
Verse 13.
No,
so
start at verse 14.
All right, Sirach chapter 33, verse 14. Good is set against evil.
So there's the balance. Good against evil. Go ahead.
It says, good is set against evil, and life against death.
Life against death. So good and evil, and good is always acquitted with what? Light. You know, darkness is acquitted with evil, you know, in some cases, you know, go ahead.
It says, so is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly.
That's right. So you got the polar opposites, as you said. Read on.
So look upon all the works of the Most High.
Most of them.
All the works.
All the works. Read on.
And there are two and two, one against another.
So if the day and the sun, daylight is the opposite of night, and night is the opposite of day. So what's the opposite of the full moon, which marks the middle of the month?
Dark.
Which is the beginning of the month. There's only 30 days in a month. And they're acknowledging we got to be 100% on the 15th day, which is half of the 30 days. So then what was it 15 days before that? Dark. As the scriptures say, light and dark. See, this is now, but because people want to believe with the crescent moon, and I mean, people are going to do what they have to do or what they feel is right for them. Then they're going to have Passovers are going to be kept on different days. You understand? So those that keep the dark moon will have their Passover on the 4th of April. Those that keep the crescent moon will most likely have theirs on the 5th of April. Those that keep the full moon, they'll have theirs on the next dark moon of whichever it be of March or be of April. I'm not sure when they calculated it, but then you have those that follow the lunar doctrine that don't start their year in the month of Abib, but they just keep continuously going month after month after month after month after month. And then they end up having their Passover in all kinds of seasons. Yeah, people keeping Passover in the summer. How the hell do you do that?
That's crazy. I don't know.
How do you do that? You see what I mean? The scriptures tell you they have to be kept in their season. In the Leviticus 23 says it clearly. What did he say in Deuteronomy? Let's go to Exodus chapter 12 again.
Okay, con. And Jerison, don't worry, we'll talk. We'll get to your question. I know he had a question, so we'll get to that in a minute. All
Yeah.
right, we'll get to your question in a minute. What is it again? You wanted
Exodus chapter
Exodus?
12. Yeah. And go back and watch Brother Iram's lesson because he covers the count. So we're not gonna go into that. I'm not gonna step on my brother's toes on that. He covered it beautifully. And I know you guys have stuff from last year as well. I mean, this is like an ongoing thing. I still can't understand how people still get, and I get it. You got a lot of new people that are coming in that's learning or what have you. But nonetheless, let's read 12 and 1.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Okay.
It shall be the first month of the year to you.
So the month of Abib, and that's what began and what we kept on March 21st, was the first new moon of spring. Okay. That's where the Most High is showing you is that that's the beginning. That's the first month of the year. So from that point, you would count what? The 15 days and or 14 day at even, and you would get the April 4th Passover day. Okay. And you would do that with all your feasts. So if say the new moon, like if you were trying to keep Feast of Trumpets in the 7th month, and say the new moon appeared on October 3rd, then you would know trumpets would be on October 3rd because that trumpets is also a new moon. And then from October 3rd to keep Day of Atonement, you would count 10 days from there. You see what I mean? And then for keep tabernacles, you would just start at that new moon on October 3rd, and you would count 15 days, and you would have your Feast of Tabernacles, which lasts 8 days. So you would do that for all your feasts. It's very simple to do. Okay. What somebody had a question?
Yeah, but it was kind of off topic a little bit. It was about clarification on spending money on the Sabbath.
Okay.
They said, I know in the Shabbat we aren't supposed to buy nor buy or sell, basically not deal with money, but I was in a different live from my brothers. But people were sending money. They have a different Sabbath. That could also be another thing too, Jerison. They go by a lunar Sabbath. So they don't believe the Sabbath is from Friday night to Saturday night. So they'll spend money on this day. You know, because they don't believe that this is the Sabbath. So that's probably where your confusion is. We keep our Sabbath by Friday night to Saturday night, so we don't spend money. But if you go by the lunar situation, then you would spend money on Saturdays because you don't think it's a Sabbath. So that's probably where your confusion is coming in at. All right. Somebody they asking questions now. Somebody said, Shabbat Shalom family. Does it matter where you live? I got Monday 20th to Sunday the 22nd April. I don't know how the heck
where you live. Where you living at? I don't know if it's a brother or sister, but where they living at? They get that calculation.
Yeah, Roland, where you living at? So you're saying your Passover was Monday the 20th to Sunday April 2nd? That's pretty crazy if you're saying that.
Yeah, I can't even see how you got that.
Yeah, because your moon, your new moon wouldn't even to start your beginning of your month. It didn't even happen until the 21st. So remember, like what the elder is bringing out, your marker is the moon. That is your marker. So when the spring season is come in during the time of the spring equinox, that next full moon, that will begin your new month and for your new year. So the moon is your marker. So you can't have your Passover starting on the 20th when the new moon didn't come in until the 21st. Then from that new moon, you'll count 15 days. All right. And then the 15th that even, or the 14th that even, that will be your new moon. So I don't know. But I don't know how he got that count. But I know some people already had their Passover. So Sister Odessa said some already had Passover last week. Yeah. Some already had Passover because I believe they're going by the lunar situation?
Either that or the full moon, because
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm not sure if they use the full moon of March or if they're using the full moon of April.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I don't pay attention to that doctrine, so I don't know which one they which one they kept.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important. That's why there's some things that you can't get around, Israel, is that you have to get a clear understanding of when the new moons are, because that is the most critical thing that you
Mhm.
have to know with keeping the feast days, because our feast days are, let's go to Leviticus.
Mhm. And don't worry, Mark, we'll get your question in a minute. I don't know what your question was, so if you can just restate your question, Mark, then we'll get to it. And what do you want, Elder Leviticus?
Yeah, Leviticus 23. I just want to
Okay, come.
clear up some things on that.
Leviticus chapter 23
Verse 1.
and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feast.
Read
Six,
on.
6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. Ye shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings.
So the Sabbath is set apart from the other feasts. Why? Because the Sabbath happens every 7 days, no matter what, from the creation. And that day is from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Okay.
Mhm.
Which would be Saturday according to, and this is through history, the scripture. There's no record of the Sabbath being changed, none of that. So, you're safe to say. Now, remember, we know that Saturn was placed on those days, and Friday and June and all this other stuff, months named after planets. We didn't do that, but that did, just because the names were changed, did not change their place in the calendar and in the week. Understand that. It's just like your name was changed, but that didn't change your nationality, did it? You was changed from Israel to being Negro and Hispanic and Indian and all of that, but you're still the children of the Most High. So just because they threw a different name on a month or whatever, that didn't change its alignment in the year. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is something that you have to understand. So the Sabbath happens perpetually all year, every 7 days, every week.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now read verse 3. I'm sorry,
Ver-
verse 4.
Verse 4. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons.
Now, there's a difference because the Sabbath occurs every week. It's going to happen in the spring, the summer, the fall, and the winter. No matter what, it's going to go through every season. But now there's other feasts which are called seasonal feasts.
Mhm.
Passover, for example, is a seasonal feast. It occurs every single year on the first month, on the 14th day of even, which will be the 15th day of the month, without exception. If you're keeping it on something else other than that, you're keeping it out of order. You're keeping it out against the commandments. Now,
Mhm.
now because we live by this, we have a secular calendar, the Gregorian calendar that we use on a day to day. This is a calendar that we use because this is what the world utilizes. So if I were to tell you the 14th day of even, you might be like, well, wait, what day is that? So what
Mhm.
we do is the Most High created these heavenly instruments. The sun, the moon, the stars, they're instruments, they're tools for calculation to show us when seasons occur, when months occur, okay, when days occur. If we didn't have a sun and a moon, we would not have day and night, and therefore we wouldn't even know when the day begins or ends.
Mhm.
So we just have one long day. But the
Mhm.
Most High gave these instruments for us to calculate so that we can measure and know when to keep his appointments. So these are kept in their seasons. So we know that the Passover is kept in the first month, which is the month of Abib, on the 14th day of the month at even, and it's for 7 days.
Mhm.
Now, what does that mean? Is that you have to get the first new moon that occurs on or after the spring equinox. Okay.
Mhm.
Why is that? Is because that's when the planets start to align, or the planets and the stars create constellations that occur in the spring. Okay.
Mhm.
According to this society or what have you, it would be known as the constellation Aries. Okay.
Mhm.
Aries appears in the actual spring season, and the sun moves through that. That's why there's something you can look it up. It's called the point of Aries. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is what shows us how seasons change. There's constellations that appear in the summer. There's constellations that appear in the fall, and there's constellations that appear in the winter. This is how we're able, not only just the weather, but through the heavenly instruments, we're able to determine when seasons change. Okay. Why is it called an equinox? It's because on that day, which usually happens around March 20th, March 21st, somewhere around there, is that the day and the night are of equal lengths. That's where the word equinox comes, which means equal. Okay. Similar to the word equator. The equator is the division of the earth. One half, which gives you the northern hemisphere, and the other half gives you the southern hemisphere. Going back to the scripture that Ratazan brought out, everything with the Most High is 2 and 2, one against the other. Everything. Okay. Did we even finish that scripture?
I think we did.
Did we?
Yeah, I think we did.
You're right. You're right. It said, look upon all the creation. Yeah.
Yep,
So everything with the Most High is equal. So that's why you have light and dark and so on and so forth. So once we see that the spring season occurs, that next new moon would be the first month of the year. Then once you know when the first month of the year begins, now you're able to keep all the feasts in its proper season at that point. So you know the first month, you keep Passover. We have our Sabbaths. You have your first new moon. Then the second month appears. You have, your weekly Sabbaths. The weekly Sabbaths aren't governed by the moon. That's the lunar Sabbath doctrine. That's why it's called lunar Sabbath, because they use the moon to dictate their weekly Sabbath. We've gone over that a million times to show you that that way of thinking is not correct. Okay. The scriptures speak considerably against it. Okay. So what feast days are in the second month? The Memorial of Simon. Okay. Then around as we get into the summer, what have you, we get into our Pentecost. The Pentecost count comes from the after feast of Unleavened Bread ends, the next weekly Sabbath that occurs. We would count 7 Sabbaths after that, and then that's what could give you your feast of Pentecost count. All right. Then the next feast wouldn't occur till you get to the 7th month. You would have that new moon of that 7th new moon would be what? Memorial of Trumpets. Then 10 days from that would be Day of Atonement. Then another 5 days after that will be the 15th day of the month. Will give you Feast of Tabernacles. Okay. And that's how, then when you get into like the 9th month, will put you in November, December, and it gets you into Feast of Dedication. That's why when you read John, it says it was a feast, it was a Jews' Feast of Dedication, and it was winter. Because it's letting you know that feast is always held in the winter season. Memorial of Trumpets and Day of Atonement and Feast of Tabernacles is always held in the fall or autumn, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So these feasts are kept in particular seasons. When you start having your Passover in the winter, you've gone off.
Yeah, you off. Yeah, that's the easy determining factor of if you're keeping your feast day correct.
Exactly. And if you're keeping, a Feast of Dedication, which should be in the winter, and you're keeping that in the summer, you're off. There's no way around that. That's why the Most High says this month shall be read that verse 2 again, Exodus 2. I'm sorry, let's go back to Exodus again.
Exodus, Exodus chapter 12, verse 2.
Yeah.
This month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
Right. So this month, the month of Bib, okay, Bib meaning green ear, it should be the beginning of months, meaning read on.
This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
So it should be the first month of the year to you. The Most High is making it very simple by telling you, if you keep the first new moon that occurs on or after the spring equinox or in the spring season, you'll be able to calculate each month. The next new moon will be the second month. The next new moon after that will be the third month. The next new moon will be the fourth, so on and so forth. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to keep your first month in spring every year, no matter what. I know people say, well, what about double Adar and all that? Not a problem. That happens because what you'll find is that after the 12th month expires, every 3 years or so, the 12th month will expire. And it's still winter. You cannot start your new year in the winter. You have to wait till, as the scriptures command, keep the month of Abib. It shall be the beginning of months unto you. You have to start it in the spring. If you don't, your days are going to, you're going to notice over a period of time, all your feasts are going to start getting out of alignment. You're getting out of more and more as time progresses. Okay. In my book, I go over that and I give examples to show you how the months will drift, and you end up keeping your Passover or keeping your spring or your first month of the year in February, and then it's going to go into December, which is completely off. Okay. So the Most High made it simple. He says, find and know when the first month of the year is, and you'll be okay. And then measure your new moons after that, and you'll be okay. That'll eliminate the confusion. But in your mind, you have to make a decision to say, well, what new moon is going to be the beginning of the month for me to keep my feast? Because if you don't have that right, all your feasts are going to be off. Okay. So, these are not things that we just, grab, these are things, all these crescent moon, full moon doctrine, they've been around for years. I've been in truth almost 30 years, and these things have always been around and resurfaced. Okay. The full moon, this thing was taught years ago, at least 15, 16 years ago, it was taught. But when you go into the scriptures and look at it, you'll see that that's incorrect. And you had the crescent moon, which stems primarily from the fake Jews. They're the ones that observe that, and they're the ones pushing that tradition. Okay. And then that's where, and they trying to go into it to make it seem like it makes sense and all of that, but it contradicts itself completely. Okay. There's no record of anyone or the Sanhedrin or whatever citing the new moon and oh, there it is, and the two witnesses saw it. You don't see that nowhere in the Bible, but I see David and Jonathan seeing when they said tomorrow's a new moon. Why didn't they wait for the Sanhedrin to announce it?
Right. They wouldn't have.
See what I mean? Our forefathers already knew how to deal with the sun, moon, and stars. We're special people. We're the Most High's creation. So we always know that. Okay. He made it simple for us. But, through doctrines, through confusion, some we, just don't know. I didn't always know. So, I can't condemn anyone for that. Some people like, hey, we're just doing the best we can. That's all you can do. But as they say, when you know better, you do better. So, there's a lot of information out there, even a lot of people are now starting to utilize apps, but utilize the apps correctly. Look at the disclaimers that the apps utilize. Remember, keep in mind that they don't acknowledge that the new day begins at sundown. They keep the new day beginning at midnight. It doesn't change the when the days and phases occur. It's just certain principles that you have to first know when you start to adventure into these applications. You see what I mean? So, the Most High keeps it very simple. First, understand when the first new moon of the year is, and then you'll be okay. Understand when the new moon of each month appears. Understand that, because there's three popular ones. Is it the dark moon? Is it the crescent? Or is it the full moon? You have to go into your study, and you're going to have to make a choice, because your feast days are determined by what moon you choose to acknowledge. You see what I mean? So, I don't want to confuse people. I want to keep it simple and just say, hey, just check it out. If we want to talk about percentages and all that, again, I say, hey, you want to talk about full moon 100%, then take me to the beginning. And we get a dark moon. You're going to always, the Most High said, from darkness and light, there's two divisions. He didn't say a sliver and then a full. When you take a sliver, you're already progressing into the month. Y'all see that?
You don't ever start something. You don't ever start something. Like, you don't say, pass me that empty cup. And the cup already has juice in it. You know what I mean? Like, you don't start anything that's already have something in it.
Think about it.
You start from it empty.
Think about this. When you start a new job, have you worked there before?
Not at all.
So then how the hell can you still have a piece of yourself in a position you never worked in if it's new?
Exactly.
You see what I mean? So it's like, these are things that people have to look at, is that it's new. It's called new for a reason. It's new because it's acknowledging a beginning of something. And the beginning is what? The beginning of a phase of that particular instrument, which is the moon. That's why the scientists know, and and see, and if you're trusting the apps, then look at where they're telling you the beginning and the source starts, because all these apps are calculated from the dark moon. Even the full moon is measured from that. That's scientifically proven. So, this is, like I said, if you want to talk about that and applications, it's a ton of them. But they're all going to point back to the same source, which is the dark, and the scriptures do it first. And that's what we got to go by. Scratch the app, get into your scriptures, then start employing these other tools. What we got? What else we got?
Now, Mark, I just want to tell him, because he said, I really don't know how the lunar Sabbath I haven't worked in a year, and I just recently got a job that agrees with my Sabbath day for Saturdays. Am I wrong for not taking the lunar Sabbath? We don't teach the lunar Sabbath, so we don't teach that persuasion over here. We teach the Saturday Sabbath. So if you got your Saturday Sabbaths off, you absolutely good. You got your Friday night to Saturday night, you good. We don't teach the lunar Sabbath here. So you would, if you asking me that question, you wouldn't be wrong. You wouldn't be wrong at all, because we don't teach the lunar Sabbath. All right. So I just really wanted to and then it was another thing. Somebody asked another question, and I just want to see where it is. Somebody mentioned the double adar. That was a good one. Somebody asked.
I just covered the double adar.
Yeah. Somebody didn't ask. They just said. Okay, this is how many days do you count after March 21st? Was it 14 days or 15 days? How? Oh, okay. So she's asking how many days. So she's asking about the count. I think you. How many days do we count after March 21st?
So remember, the Passover would be kept on the 14th day at even, which would be the 15th day of the
15
month.
days.
So you would count the 21st as day one. The 22nd is so the new moon would appear on the 21st. So that would be day one. So the next sundown, which would be the 22nd of the month, would be day two. Then the 23rd would be day three. The 24th would be day four. The 25th. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Yeah, I was about to say and then
Yeah,
also too, what helps me too, Elder, and I don't know, this is how I do it, because this is how you kind of taught me. I count the evens.
you could do that. I mean, well, we're going to do it like that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, she said you answered it already. Okay, Khan. She said you answered it already.
Okay,
So
we
you
don't have
don't
to.
gotta, yeah, you don't have to bring that up.
All right.
Somebody asked about the Shabbat though. Somebody asked, are we not supposed to fast on the Sabbath since it's a feast day?
The only Sabbath that we fast on is Day of Atonement.
Okay.
That's the only fast. We can't fast on the Passover because there's certain, the lamb, you got bitter herbs, you got unleavened bread that has to be eaten. But the only required fast is on the Day of Atonement, which we read in Leviticus 23.
But I guess they're asking, are we not supposed to fast? So on the 7-day Sabbath, are we not supposed to fast? No, I think you can fast on the 7-day Sabbath, right?
Yeah, you can. You can.
Yeah.
Go to the Book of Esther in the Apocrypha.
Okay. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask as well. And then another thing too, if there's no other questions after this, is some people teach with the Passover, you don't have to eat the lamb anymore. That's another doctrine. I think we actually lost some brothers to that doctrine some years back, Elder.
What's that?
That they teach that we don't have to eat the lamb.
Yeah, we're going into that too.
Yeah.
So, I want to kind of get it. I know we had the technical issue. I'm gonna show you two ways of how our forefathers did it. Let's read the Book of Esther.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get chapter 8, verse 6. I'm sorry, the Book of Judith. I'm sorry. Judith in the Apocrypha. Judith, I'm sorry.
Okay, Judith, what 8 and 7?
8 and 6.
Okay. Judith in the Apocrypha, Sirach chapter 8, verse 6. And she fasted all the days of her widowhood, save the eves of the Sabbaths, and the Sabbaths, and the eves of the new moons, and the new moons.
So it said that, in other words, Judith, I remember her husband passed away or what have you, said that she fasted all the days of her widowhood, not in the sense of starving, but meaning she spent a great deal of her life in fasting. Mm-hmm. But she would not fast on the evenings before the Sabbaths and new moons or on the feast days. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because remember, a lot of our feast days are supposed to be with mirth and gladness. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So she didn't bring her fasting or her, grieving into the feast of the Most High. Mm-hmm. Y'all see how that works? But now this was something that she chose to do. Wasn't anything wrong with that because Judith was considered an upright woman. Now let's go to Mark, the book of Mark.
Okay.
Mark 4, and let's read verse 2.
Mark chapter 4, verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught them many things by parables.
I'm sorry, Matthew. I'm sorry, Matthew
Okay,
4 and 2. My fault. So Judith spent a great deal of her life fasting, but she would never fast the day before the Sabbaths or new moons, and she wouldn't fast on the Sabbaths or new moons. That was a choice that she had made. Okay. Now Christ, let's see how he did. And Matthew 4 and 2.
Matthew chapter 4, verse 2.
Uh-huh.
So like it says, and when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights.
Now, are there Sabbaths that come up within 40 days?
Absolutely.
Well, we know that a month only consists of 30 days. So that means that if Christ fasted for 40 days, there was a new moon in there, and there was at least 4 Sabbath days in there, and he fasted on them. Now, this is Christ. So is it lawful to fast on the Sabbath?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Except now we obviously know that Christ would never have fasted during the Passover. He would never have fasted, when there was something that was required to be done. The Passover has to have, we have to have the lamb, the unleavened bread, things like that. So he would have never fasted chosen to fast during that time. So, recall, if you're going to take a fast and you don't want to break that fast, or if you make a vow to the Most High, you want to make sure that you plan it accordingly, that you don't violate and then go against your own, your own vows. So make sure you plan it accordingly. So Judith, she chose to fast many days, but she did not fast on feast days. Whereas Christ, you can see that if he fasted for 40 days, there was a new moon he was fasting, and then there was 4 Sabbaths within that 40-day span that he was fasting during as well.
Con.
So it's
Elder, I'm really trying to figure out, like respectfully too, how, Roland, how is your Passover on the April 2nd? Like I will even give you the link to explain that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and respectfully, like, how is your Passover April 2nd? I really want you to explain that to us respectfully. I will even give you the link, and this is no smoke. This is not smoke. But your Passover couldn't possibly be April 2nd. So I'm gonna send you the link, okay? I'm gonna send you the link, and I really want you to click that link. And don't worry, it's not smoke. It's just clarification, and I want to see how you got your Passover on April 2nd. Is that fine, Elder? Because I that's the second time I didn't seen it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm just kind of like,
I'm looking at the calculation. If he
because it's no, I mean, it would be no way, because the new moon didn't even come in yet, unless I don't know how he got it April 2nd.
Yeah, I'm looking. The only way, if you're calculating it according to the scriptures, the only way you could get an April 2nd date is if you acknowledge March 19th as your new moon, which
March
would be
19th.
a waning crescent. So
yeah, how would that? Yeah,
remember, you got to count. It's no way you can't just pull a date out the air. It's literally the 14th day at even of the month. So, and what do you? So it would come down to, what are you recognizing as your new month? You have to recognize the moon. That's the only way that we calculate and reference our months. So, if you're getting a Passover date, 15 days prior to that would be March 19th, which is a waning crescent.
I think that's a very important point too, that I think a lot of people miss. You still have to have the erect count in your days.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't make sense for it to be April 2nd or April 3rd, seeing that our new moon, depending on what new moon you kept, whether you kept, I don't know, if you kept the dark moon, it possibly with 15 days from the dark moon is not April 2nd. You know what I mean? So their moon will have to be a waning crescent in order for it to be April 2nd. That's what you said, Elder?
What's that?
You said there for them to get April 2nd, that their new moon would have to be a waning
They would have
crescent.
had to acknowledge March 19th
Yeah, that
as a
would.
new moon.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I don't know if they're gonna hit the link or not. But that's I don't know how you got that. Uh, that's kind of uh that's kind of weird. Somebody said, oh, what format do you use? Somebody said, is there a full calendar format for us that we can download for the, I guess, for the
Um,
moon cycles?
I think you for the who?
For the moon cycles, I believe.
You know what? The app that I use several apps. You know, if you don't have that ability, I think don't you guys put a feast day calendar on on the link?
Yeah, so we have a complete feast day calendar. If that's what you're talking about, I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but if that is, I might have misunderstood you. I probably thought you were talking about the moon app calendar. But look, let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So you could go to our channel, right? Believers of the Way. You go to our channel. And when you go to our channel, you go to community. And once you go to community, you scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, scroll down, and you see our calendar right here. All right. And the link is here. And you can click the link and you can download the calendar. All right. So all of our days are here. So we got unleavened bread. We got our new year was 21st, that's sundown. We got our unleavened bread and Passover starting on the 4th, and then we got the rest of our feast days right here. So that's how you can get our feast days, okay? So you just go to our YouTube channel, you see you have home, videos, shorts, lives, playlists, go to community, scroll down, and then you'll see it right here and click that link, and then you'll have all our feast days for the entire year. Kind of hope that answered the question. What did he say? I mean, a full one, I got it, but there are more detailed ones for I don't know what he mean by that.
Probably like one, I guess, on a regular calendar. Remember the calendars we used to do? That
Oh,
every
oh,
year it would be a
oh,
full
the actual.
calendar,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
but it
Yeah.
will be on an actual regular world calendar, but we would put the new moons and so people could count them.
Uh
So maybe
huh.
that's something that we would have to do. Parag used to do that.
Yeah, that'll be cool for people to actually see it on the actual. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
and
it
then
was
he
that
said
way
con.
you can hang it up like a calendar in your
Mm-hmm,
home. And
mm-hmm,
yeah, that's something that
mm-hmm.
maybe we can have some work, get something like
Yeah,
that
get
and
something like
upload
that.
it. It's not difficult to get. We just put the dates instead of putting a list. We'll just put them onto a calendar, and then
Uh
that way people can see what day the new moon comes in. Remember how we would have it? New moon
yeah,
on
yeah,
March
yeah.
21st,
That's actually a good idea. Yeah,
and then you'll put Passover April 4th. Then we'll
yeah,
put Day
con.
of Unleavened Bread 1.
Yeah.
April 5th would be Day of Unleavened Bread 2, 3, 4, all the way on. Then Sabbath. Then
Mm-hmm,
the weekly Sabbath will be on Friday. So you can pretty much look at the calendar and be able to know what dates and what feasts are coming up. I think with
con.
a list, it's cool. They can, but actually, you could take all those dates that's on the list that the brother just said and put them onto your regular calendar.
Mm-hmm,
It's the same thing. That's all we would used to do. And that way you can have it as a glimpse and know, oh, Passover's on a Tuesday or you know what I mean? You can kind of it
mm-hmm,
made it easier for everyone to see it. Because when we've
mm-hmm,
grown up in this society, it's hard to kind of to break away from that calculating mentality of how they
mm-hmm,
calculate time.
mm-hmm.
I know, I know you remember them soldier classes I got.
Ooh, hey, look, I'm gonna tell y'all a story. When I was learning, me and the elder was going because I didn't understand, and we was going at it, and I was so confused. Like I don't get it. Like I really, it took me a minute to get the calendar. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. The calendar was not my strong suit, at that particular time. But with diligence and stuff, it's just simple after a while. But yeah, they're saying that's a good idea. Just having it on the actual calendar like that, That's
Mhm.
something I think we could probably do something like that now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could probably do something like that now. Did you want to talk about the Passover lamb? Do we have to eat it or not? Because some people teach that we don't have to eat the lamb anymore. And then I think somebody said I think they go off the spring equinox on the 20th as the new moon. The spring equinox is not where you start the count for Passover. The spring equinox is when you know the new moon, which begins the month, is going to be in the right season. So that's probably where people are getting it. Equinox does not start the count for Passover. Equinox lets you know that the new moon after the equinox is the marker that you start the
Right.
count for Passover.
The equinox represents the first day of spring, the spring season,
Mhm.
and the new moon in which Passover is kept can only occur in the spring season. So the
Mhm.
equinox is your marker. Okay. I
Mhm.
behoove everybody, get the book, My Word Instructed. I mean, the calendar, this is something, and this is the whole reason why the book was created. It's just to give everybody some understanding to kind of go by,
Mhm.
and you'll be able to. I deal with days, I deal with the week, how to calculate the new moon, the feast days, seasons, the year, the months, the words tomorrow. That confuses people. That, when you read about the word tomorrow in the Bible, the
Mhm.
word evening, even. All of these things kind of trip people up when you read it, especially in the King James, because it uses a lot of different words like evening and even. Some people get them twisted, and you see the word
Mhm.
tomorrow or in the morning. They think it's like a whole new day. It's just like you got to remember that our days consist of evening and morning.
Mhm.
When we deal with Passover, remember, Passover begins in the evening. All right. You would cook the lamb. You would have your service, go into the scriptures, have your prayers. You have your feasting. You eat the lamb. You drink. You having a good time. Passover is a celebration.
Con.
And then when the sun comes up, guess what? It's not over. It continues until the sun sets again.
Mhm.
Evening and morning make up one whole day.
Mhm.
So when it tells you that Christ died on the Passover, remember they kept the Passover at the same time everyone else did.
Con.
Let's go there real quick, and that's going to get into the question you had asked about do we have to eat the lamb?
Okay, Con. And then real quick too, just to answer two questions. Somebody asks, are there any groups in Chicago? Yes, we do have a brother that is in Chicago that is starting to build a BOW in Chicago. If you want that information, please email us. I don't know if Iram is still there. Iram, if you're still there, could you put our name, our email in the chat? But our email is believers of the way. Okay. Believers of the way 144k@gmail.com. All right. Hold on one second. I'm sorry, Elder. I just want to
Yeah.
believers of the way. All right. Oh, he put it in there. The water, Iron. So Emmanuel Brooks, email us, please. Believers of the way 144k@gmail.com, and we can link you with a brother that is building up out there. And then the second thing I want to say, just real quick, I think somebody had made mention that the equinox was in line with the new moon this year. No, the new moon was on the 21st at sundown. The new moon was not on the 20th. The new moon was on the 21st at sundown. The new moon was not on the 20th. The equinox was on the 20th. The new moon came a day after. All right. So I just wanted to clear that up. Emmanuel, please give us an email. Okay. All right. All right. What did you want, Elder?
Let's go to Exodus 12. So one thing I want to go over. We covered the count. Iram watched the brother Iram's video. I think he did it last weekend, right? Last Saturday.
Yeah, he did a beautiful breakdown.
Yeah, he covered that excellent in his lesson of how to calculate the Passover and the feast days. So giving you a good understanding of that. So please watch that video. So we covered the crescent and the new moon. We covered that part of it. I showed you guys on the app. We covered the fact that the Feast of Unleavened Bread and the word Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread, they're the same. It's not the Passover is not separated from the 7 days of unleavened bread. Passover and the first day of unleavened bread is all one. We went into scriptures to show that, because some people get tripped up on that too. They think it's Passover, and then they think then after Passover, the next day is 7 days of unleavened bread. No, the Passover is a day of unleavened bread to be eaten as well. And it's included in the first day of unleavened bread. So that Passover unleavened bread is day one, and that's a Sabbath. Then you have to have unleavened bread for 7 days. Okay. You can't just eat unleavened bread on the first day. You have to have unleavened bread for 7 days. This is what the scriptures tell us. 7 days. And you have to remove leaven from your home. So if you're keeping Passover on April 4th, you need to have all the leaven out of your homes. Don't store them in your garage, don't store them in your car, anything like that. It needs to be out of the way, because in Israel, remember, all leaven had to be removed from the coast. It had to be out of the cities during Passover, during that Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay. So, you want to make sure that you have all leavening products are like yeast, leaven, yeast, certain, what else? Like barley, liquors have yeast in it. So you want to make sure that
vinegar,
certain vinegars, the way it's fermented, it creates a yeast. So anything that causes things to rise and ferment is considered leaven. Okay. So you want to make sure that those things are removed. You're gonna have to check your ingredients. This is where the term spring cleaning comes from. Okay. You would go through your home, you would check out, make sure you get breadcrumbs out of your toaster, all of that stuff. This is what it's about when we want to serve the Most High correctly. Okay. So we have to make sure that those things are done. And then you have to, purchase or make your unleavened bread. If you don't know how to make them, you can go to the store. You can get matzos, you can get water crackers, certain tortillas that don't have it, not the flour ones.
corn.
Corn. If you make your unleavened bread, it can be with no flavor, it can
That's
be
a good
sweet,
question.
it can have, whatever. Certain tequilas. I see the question. Certain tequilas, the Anejos, I believe.
Yep, the Anejo. Lob right there, he know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Anejo.
That's
Any
liquor
tequila
connoisseur. He knows.
Yeah. Any tequila that's an Anejo. I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah. So that's also something
the Manischewitz wine too.
Yeah, that's probably something too to do. Would be good is to put a little ingredient list or something like that. But you could go online and you could just check the ingredients of a lot of these manufacturers. If you're unsure, then just leave it alone. It's better to be safe than sorry. So now the question is that do we eat the lamb even now after Christ has passed? Let's get the ordinance. Let's go back to Exodus 12. Let's go back to Exodus 12 and let's read verse 14.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 14. And this day shall be unto you.
So it's talking about Passover. Okay, go ahead.
For a memorial, and
It's a memorial. This is the first thing we have to understand about Passover. It is a memorial. Okay, it's different from the sacrifices that the Levites would have that we would take to the altar. It's completely different. Okay, and that's going to help you understand when we get to the New Testament why it still was done and why we do it now. Some people say, well, Christ died, now we don't do sacrifice, blah, blah, blah. The Passover was completely different from any of those types of sacrifices. This was something that each family did at home. It is a memorial. It is a purpose for this. It's not a sacrifice for sin. It's not a sin offering. It is it's an actual meal that's in representation of what our memorial of us leaving Egypt. Okay. Now it has other spiritual things that we're going to see, but when its inception was there, it was a memorial of Israel being delivered from ancient Egypt. Okay. And this memorial was to be kept from generation to generation. So it says, it shall be unto you for a memorial. Go ahead.
Salakia, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations.
Throughout your generations, read.
Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever.
For how long?
Forever.
Forever. It's to be continual done. This is a memorial. Okay. That's why you see that these things are continuously done. Okay. Flip over to verse 17.
Verse 17. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this same day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generation by an
In your
ordinance.
generations, from generation to generation. Go ahead.
By an ordinance forever.
An ordinance meaning a law, a statute, by a decree, forever. Flip over to verse 24.
Verse 24. And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and to thy sons forever.
So how many times does the Most High say forever there?
Like 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times, huh?
Forever.
Now let's go to the Gospels real quick.
Jake is crazy.
Let's go to Luke.
Well, forever don't mean forever. You know that, right? Huh?
Right. Well, it depends on the context, but on this we're gonna see.
Yeah.
Luke 22. Let's read chapter 22 and verse 7.
Luke 22.
Yeah, let's get Luke 22. Let's read verse 7.
Verse 7. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed.
There it is again. So now, if people are in doubt again, if Passover and unleavened bread is on 2 different days, it said, then came the day of unleavened bread. And what happens on the day of unleavened bread? The Passover is killed. It is cooked and eaten on the first day of unleavened bread. The Passover, which the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is called the Passover. Read verse 1 again.
Verse in back in
Same
Exodus?
chapter.
Oh, 22.
Yep.
Now the feast, Luke chapter 22, verse 1. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew nigh, which is called the Passover.
Now read verse 7.
Verse 7. Then came the day of unleavened bread, when the Passover must be killed.
So the Passover is killed on that day, the first day of unleavened bread, as we've been reading. They're not separated. Okay, read on.
Mm-hmm. It says, and verse 8, and he sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare us the Passover, that we may eat.
So we obviously see they're eating lamb because it said when the Passover must be killed, right? Now, that's one thing you have to understand. The word Passover is Pesach, and that specifically means the lamb, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's why it says the Passover, and then you have Feast of Unleavened Bread. That's why people think it's separate. But the unleavened bread is one component. The Passover, which is the lamb, is another component for the same feast. Mm-hmm. We only eat lamb on the first day, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is where people, so now we see that according to the law back in Exodus 12, the lamb is killed on what? The 14th day at even. Mm-hmm. And it's roasted in that night with fire. Another thing is you got to cook it on the grill. You cannot, it has to be cooked on an open flame. You can't boil it in water. You can't boil it, you know, in anything like that. Yeah, it can't. It can't be thrown in a pot and boiled and what have you and made like stew. You can't, it has to be done on a fire. Okay. Mm-hmm. Those are the regulations of the Sabbath. Excuse me, of the Passover. So read on.
And they said unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare?
So it said, prepare that we may eat. And they're asking where. Read on.
And he said unto them, behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entereth in. And ye shall say unto the good man of the house, the master says unto thee, where is the guest chamber, where I shall eat the Passover with my disciples?
So did Christ eat the Passover?
Absolutely.
Why would Christ eat the Passover if he knew that he was the sacrifice?
Right.
Why didn't he teach his apostles to say, listen, it's no need for this. I'm here with you.
Right.
Why would he also take part of it? Because that's the law. It was said that it would be forever. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he's showing them, because remember, what did the Most High say? This is my beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased. Hear ye him. Okay. Follow him. Read on.
It says, and he shall show you a large upper room furnished, there make ready. And they went and found as he had said unto them, and they made ready the Passover. And when
Because
the
there's a lot of preparation for the Passover. Okay, you got to cook. The lamb don't take an hour. Lamb takes like 4 to 5 hours to cook, maybe longer, depending on what you're cooking it on. So there's preparation involved. Read on.
It says, and when the hour was come, he
When it
sat
was
down,
time, when it was ready. Read on.
and the 12 apostles with him.
So he
and
sat down with his disciples to eat the Passover. Read on.
And he said unto them, with desire I have desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer.
Read
For
on.
I say unto you, I will not any more
Now
eat
listen to
thereof.
this. I will what?
I will not any more eat thereof until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of God.
So now, why would Christ not eat of it? Is because remember, Christ would pass away, and then Christ would do what? When he comes to bring the kingdom to Israel, he says, then I'm gonna eat it again. So if it was done away with, why would it leave and then come back? Y'all follow? You understand what I'm saying? Christ is showing you that no, you're going to keep eating it. I'm not going to be here to eat it anymore. Because remember, Christ died the following morning on the same day as, remember, a day is from evening to morning. So this is the evening time. They're eating the Passover. Right after they finish, what happens to Christ? Judas betrays him. Christ gets taken and put in prison from the early a.m. in the middle of the night up till morning. That morning, still same Passover day, Christ is taken and arraigned. Christ is beaten. Christ is brought up on charges, and he's sentenced to death through crucifixion. And then Christ dies what? At the 9th hour, which is about 3 p.m. that afternoon. Still the Passover day. Still the same Passover day. So
that's simple.
Do y'all see that? So, but yet Christ sat down with his apostles. For one, he ate the Passover. Then he's telling them that I great desire to eat this Passover with you, but I will not eat it anymore until it be fulfilled in the kingdom of God. Meaning that because Christ would die at that point, he's in the spiritual realm. He's not eating anything there. But when Christ returns to bring and gather Israel and give them the kingdom, the Passover is going to be reinstated. Okay. He will then take part of it. It ain't go the feast. Remember, the feast of the Most High are going to continue. What does it say in Zechariah about Feast of Tabernacles? Are we going to be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles?
Absolutely.
We're going to still be keeping the laws. Okay. So it did not stop. It said it would be a covenant forever throughout your generations. We read that in 3 different instances. It said forever. Christ kept it because it was the law. He's telling his apostles, you're going to keep it too. I'm not going to keep it with you because I will be killed. But however, when I see you again in the kingdom, we're going to keep it again. We're going to keep keeping it at that point. Y'all see what's going on? Read on.
It says, and he took the cup and gave thanks and said, take this and divide it among yourselves. For I say unto you, I will not drink of the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come.
So Christ said, I'm not going to partake in any of this until I keep it with my brothers and sisters. I keep it with my people when I come to give them the kingdom. But are we going to still keep it? Absolutely. Okay.
Because are we still drinking wine? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Flip over to 1 Corinthians chapter 5. And before we go there, just get 1 Corinthians 5, but I want to go back to Luke 22 real quick.
Okay, God.
And let's read verse 19. So he said he will not drink of the vine until the kingdom of God shall come. I'll read verse 19.
Verse 19, Luke chapter 22, verse 19. And he took bread and gave thanks. And
now remember, they were eating, and it says he took bread. Now, when it says he took bread, it's talking about the meal. It's not necessarily talking about just unleavened bread. When someone says, hey, let's break bread, that means what? We're going to eat a meal. No matter if it's meat involved, it could be fruit, whatever, we're breaking bread. That means we're going to eat a meal together. This is what it's talking about when it says he took bread. Go ahead.
And he took bread and gave thanks and brake it and gave unto them, saying, this is my body, which is.
Now, what was considered his body? Was it the bread or was it the lamb?
It's the lamb.
It's the lamb, because Christ is the Lamb of God, right? That taketh away the sins of the world. So the bread that is making reference to is not talking about a morsel of bread. It's speaking about the feast that they were eating. And a part of that feast is the lamb. So he took that and he brake it and he gave it to his apostles. Go ahead.
This is my body, which is given for you. This do in remembrance of me.
What does he mean by say? So he took of this meat, because we're going to see what the body of the bread or the body that he's talking about, what it is. But he said, do this in remembrance of me. Now, we just read that the Passover is what? A memorial to remember when we came out of Egypt. But not only that, but the lamb is a memorial to remember of Christ dying for our sins. That's why we cannot disannul it. It is a memorial. It is a level of understanding that we're to take from. Now, flip over to 1 Corinthians now, chapter 5. So he said, do this in remembrance of me. So meaning, do the feast, continue. They were eating the Passover feast. Christianity calls it the Last Supper. Notice they never say the Passover. This is what they were eating, the Passover meal. Okay. 1 Corinthians chapter 5, and let's read verse 7.
1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. And his brethren by their families.
1 Corinthians 5 and 7.
I don't know why I thought you said Chronicles. I'm tripping. 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. Salakia. 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. Purge out therefore the old leaven.
So it's going back. Now, this is Paul talking to the Corinthians, or the church in Corinth, giving them understanding of the Passover. Now, this is a spiritual part of it too. Everything that the Most High has us do, from the new moons to Sabbaths to all the feast days, they also have a spiritual understanding too, even though we physically perform them. Okay. But purge out the old leaven. That's why we remove leaven from our homes, because leaven represents malice and wickedness. Okay. So we still do that. We eat unleavened bread because unleavened bread represents righteousness, sincerity, and truth. Leaven represents evil and malice. So we want to remove that from us and from our homes and our dwellings. Okay. But be unleavened. Read on.
That purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened bread. For even Christ our Passover.
For even Christ our what?
Passover.
Now remember, what is the Passover? The Passover is the lamb. You understand? Read on.
Is sacrificed for us.
Just like the Passover lamb was killed and eaten as a token of deliverance from ancient Egypt. Well, guess what? We also have to listen to Christ to be delivered from this Egypt. Same situation. But read on now. Watch this.
Verse 8. Therefore, let us keep the feast.
Let us neglect the feast.
Keep the feast.
You got to keep the feast. You can't have Passover without the lamb. That's why Christ ate of it. That's why Christ told his apostles, he broke it and said, do this in remembrance of me. This is why we're keeping it. So that's why Paul comes back to say that even Christ, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. So when we do this feast, it's in remembrance of him. Okay. And also our remembrance of our leaving and deliverance from ancient Egypt. Read on.
Not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth.
See that? So the feast, all the components, be it the bitter herbs, be it the wine, be it the lamb, all of that is still kept today. Some people want to say, no, well, not Christ. We're just going to eat the bread. Well, Christ's body wasn't the bread. It was the lamb. And when he broke it and gave it his apostles, he said, do this in remembrance of me. Well, when was they going to do it? They was already doing it. Meaning, as you move forward, continue to do this. Because what did the Most High say to Moses? This shall be a commandment throughout your generations. For how long?
Forever.
Forever. And then Christ said, I desire to eat this Passover with you, but I will no longer eat thereof till I eat it with you in the kingdom of the Most High. So why would Israel not do it anymore? And then we get the kingdom. Now we're going to do it again. No, we still have to do it. But Christ would not do it because Christ is no longer on the earth. But when he comes back to take the kingdom and take control of this world and install the laws of the Most High, it's going to be continued. It's going to be worldwide. All Israel is going to be keeping it. Okay. So yeah, we still continue to eat the Passover. We have to keep it. And another thing is that people say, well, you can't keep it outside of Jerusalem. Y'all understand? See, that goes back to people just not wanting to keep the laws. Our forefathers told us that these things would happen. One thing that we understand, where was the first Passover kept? Was it in Jerusalem?
Nope, it was in Egypt.
Exactly. So we obviously see that feast days will be kept outside of Jerusalem. Flip over to John chapter 4.
Yes, sir. That's the one.
Are y'all with us?
Yep.
Y'all good?
Look like you going to 3, huh?
Oh, there we go.
Nah, somebody said, I'm a vegetarian, but eat the Passover. Yep, you better eat that Passover. You're not a vegetarian on Passover.
Yeah,
You a carnivore. Nah, I'm messing around. John 4.
Yeah, John 4. Let's read verse 21. This is Christ speaking to a woman. Watch this. And let's get the context. I want to get verse let's read verse 20.
John chapter 4, verse 20.
So this is the woman at the well that Christ encountered. Okay, and they're having a dialogue. Watch what happens. Read.
Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship.
So now, because where were they at? They were, if you read up earlier, he was going through a region of Samaria, which is in northern Israel. Okay, it's outside of Jerusalem, where it was told that the reason why people say you can't keep the Passover outside of Jerusalem, because the Passover, the Feast of Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles were the 3 feasts that the men had to go to Jerusalem to keep. Okay, when we were in our land. So they understood that. So this is why this woman is saying this. She's saying, our fathers worshipped in this mount, which was Samaria. And ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship, because they knew that Israel had to go to Jerusalem for those particular 3 feasts to keep them in Jerusalem. Okay. Now watch what Christ says.
Verse 21. Yahweh Shai says,
she's saying right according to the law, but Christ is going to lay something down that pertains to us now. Okay, because we're not in Samaria, nor are we in Jerusalem. 21.
Yahweh Shai says unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain, nor yet
in Samaria, read,
nor yet at Jerusalem,
not even at Jerusalem, read,
worship the Father.
So what does that mean? If we don't worship him in Jerusalem, as it was stated, according to the law, but we were taken captive, so we can't be there. What are we going to do? Not keep the law? We keep them where we're at. Y'all understand? That's how it works. That's what the Most High is explaining to us. We keep the laws where we are. Okay, going back to even with the moon, wherever you at is where you observe the new moon. Same thing, because the moon is going throughout all the world. It's everywhere. I don't care where. You can live in Europe, you can live in Africa, you can live in New Zealand, you can live in California, New York, New Jersey, Texas. You're going to get the new moon sometime in that day. And then you're going to get every phase every single day of the month. It doesn't change. The ordinances don't change. Remember, he said it's a sign of the world. Okay. The sun appears everywhere in the world. So the Most High is saying, this is why Christ is saying, look, the time cometh where you will no longer in this mountain or even in Jerusalem worship the Father. So are we going to stop worshiping the Father?
Nope.
No, we just won't be able to do it in Jerusalem. So let's get an example of history of this. Let's go to the book of Tobit. Let's get Tobit chapter 1. See, this is why we got to read and understand what the Most High is showing us. It's important to read these things. The book of Tobit.
Yeah, that's a good point that you had made too, when you said that people are just lazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They you know what I mean? They just make excuse because deep down they don't really want to keep it, or it's hard for them.
Right.
Like, you know, or you got like the non-Masonics, they can't keep it because they got to offer certain sacrifices. Exactly. So then they say, well, you can't keep it outside Jerusalem anyway. Right.
So now remember, I want to read something real quick, so just so that we can get understanding of what it pertains to. Exodus chapter 23. I'm gonna read it real quick while you get up.
I got Tobit whenever you're ready.
I'm just gonna read Exodus 23 because this is why the woman said this to Christ about Jerusalem. Exodus 23. I'm gonna read verse 15. It says, "Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread, Passover, Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month of Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. Meaning that at this point in time, you could not do the feast without the offerings that was required. So in verse 16 it says, "And the feast of harvest, which is the feast of harvest, the feast of first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is the feast of tabernacles, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. 3 times in the year shall all males appear before the Lord God." Okay, so it's letting you know when it says appear, that meant that we had to go into Jerusalem to keep these feasts. Okay, when you read in Acts chapter 2, when they were keeping Feast of Pentecost, where were they all at? In Jerusalem, right? They all went to Jerusalem to keep the feast. But what happens when you go into captivity? Tobit is a prime example of this, and you're going to see that he kept one of the required Jerusalem feasts in a place where he was at. Just like you're going to keep Passover, Day of Atonement, the new moons, the Sabbaths, trumpets, and Day of Atonement, and tabernacles, and every other feast in the captivities and the places where you are. Okay, don't let people seduce you and then we ain't in Jerusalem, we can't do it. Well, you can follow that if you want to. So Tobit chapter 1.
Tobit 1 and what? 1?
You can start at verse 1.
The book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobiel, the son of Ananiel, the son of Aduel, the son of Gabriel, of the seed of Asael, of the tribe of Naphtali.
So Tobit was of Naphtali. Go ahead, let's read this. We're gonna read a little bit. I'm gonna skip around, but we're gonna get to the point. Go ahead.
Who in the time of Emanazar, king of Assyrians, was led captive out of Thesbe, which is at the right hand of that city, which is called primarily Naphtali in Galilee above Asher.
So it's showing you that Tobit lived in the land of Naphtali, that's next to the land of Asher. But when they were overthrown by the Assyrians took them back to Assyria and made them captives. So Tobit was taken out of his land and taken to the land of Assyria. Okay, so he didn't have access to get to Jerusalem. Okay, read on.
I, Tobit, have walked all the days of my life in the way of truth and justice, and I did many alms deeds to my brethren and my nation, whom came with me to Nineveh,
which is the land of Assyria. Go ahead.
Into the land of the Assyrians.
So he was taken captive into Assyria, to a place called Nineveh. Read on.
And when I was in my own country.
So now he's letting you know, he's going to backtrack. He says, but when I was in my own country, in my own land, read.
In the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribe of Naphtali, my father, fell from the house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, that all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitations of the Most High was consecrated and built for all ages.
So he said, when I was young, my father, we used to go to Jerusalem to offer our sacrifices and keep feasts, because that's where the Most High made and built the temple that was consecrated for all ages. So Tobit followed what we just read in Exodus, where they would go to Jerusalem for certain feasts: feast of Passover, unleavened bread, feast of first fruits or Pentecost, and feast of tabernacles. Okay, read on.
Now all the tribes which together revolted, and the house of my father Naphtali sacrificed unto the heifer Baal.
So now he tells you how his family of the tribe of Naphtali, they went off. They went into idolatry like the rest of the northern kingdom. Go ahead.
But I alone went often to Jerusalem at the feast, as it was ordained unto all the people of Israel by an everlasting decree, having the first fruits and the 10th of increase, with that which was first shown, and them gave I at the altar to the priests, the children of Aaron.
So he's saying, even though his other brothers of Naphtali in northern kingdom went off, he still stayed with the laws of the Most High, and he would still go to Jerusalem as it was commanded, and he would take the necessary offering. So we see Tobit, while he was in his land, he was able to do that. Okay, even when his people went off. But when he got carried away into Assyria, he could no longer leave at the will that he wanted to. He was a captive. You can't just get up and go. All right, read on.
It says, the first 10th part of the increase I gave to the sons of Aaron, who minister at Jerusalem. Another 10th part I sold away and went and spent it every year at Jerusalem. And the third I gave unto them to whom it was meet, as Deborah, my father's mother, had accompanied me, because I was left an orphan by my father.
Okay, so Tobit lost his parents, okay, but he was keeping the laws of the Most High. And when he was in Israel, he was able to go into the city, go to Jerusalem, offer the offerings, and keep according to the commandments that we just read in Exodus. Now you'll find out that Tobit would bury his brethren if he saw them being killed by the Assyrians or whatever. And this was something that that was against the law of the Assyrians. And they ended up taking Tobit captive for doing that. So finally they released him and he went back to home. He didn't go back to Jerusalem or the land of Naphtali. He went back into Nineveh to where his family was. So he's still in Assyria. Okay. In other words, he was placed in prison while he was in Assyria. Now he was just free and able to go back to his captive home. Now watch what happens. Let's go to chapter 2 and let's read verse 1.
Tobit chapter 2, verse 1. Now when I was come home again, and my wife Anna was restored unto me with my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of 7 weeks, there was a good dinner prepared me, in that the which I sat down to eat.
Stop. So we read that the Pentecost is one of the feasts that you have to go to Jerusalem to keep. Tobit said, when I was in my land, I did that all the time. But now that he's captive in Assyria, where is he keeping Pentecost now?
In Assyria.
In Assyria. Y'all see how that works? But didn't Christ say that? Didn't Christ already say, woman, the hour coming where you will no longer in this mountain or at Jerusalem worship the Father? Y'all see that? So this is a historical account of when you're captive, you got to keep the commandments where you are. Bottom line, don't let nobody deceive you. Get Judges. Get Judges chapter 5.
And I see one question too. We're going to address that circumcision. You have to be circumcised to eat the Passover.
Absolutely.
You cannot not be circumcised to eat the Passover.
Judges 5 and 11.
Judges chapter 5, verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the place of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts towards the inhabitants of his village in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Awake, awake, Deborah, awake, awake, utter a song. Is that it?
Yeah, that's all I needed. So it said in the place of noise and archers, meaning dealing with war. What happens in war? Captives are taken. But it says wherever we're taken to, just like Tobit, what's going to happen? We will rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, meaning we will perform them.
Yeah.
We will perform them just like Tobit did. He says, hey, when I was in my land, I had the access to go to my home, to go to Jerusalem as the law commands. But now I'm at the mercy of the Assyrians. I can't leave freely like that. So guess what? I'm going to keep the law of the Most High right here in the land of my captivity. Y'all see that? So if you're in the United States, you're going to keep Passover where?
In the United States.
How are you going to go back to Jerusalem when the damn fake Jews run all that over there? You're going to go keep the Passover with them? You see what I'm saying? When we were in Egypt, we kept it in our neighborhoods, in our homes in Egypt, right? So showing you that the Most High gave us a place to keep it, because when we were in our land, we had that ability. But when we be taken into captivity, the commandments don't stop. And rehearse, when it says rehearse the righteous acts, that doesn't mean that that's a license to do them wrong. Rehearse means to perform. When the scripture says rehearse righteousness, that means do righteousness, meaning that you in these lands, you will do these commandments. Well, we rehearsing, so we ain't got to get it right. It's like a rehearsal. No, that's not what it's about. It's talking about do them. How you going to rehearse righteousness? You're either righteous or you're not, meaning perform it. Get Baruch in Apocrypha, Baruch chapter 2 and verse 28. Baruch 2 and 28. So are y'all learning? Y'all getting some understanding? I mean, like I said, the lesson is clearing up Passover confusion. There's a lot. There's one of the biggest confusions with Passover is the dates. You know, there's always a different date. People, we had our Passover last week. We had our Passover last month. Our Passover is next month. Our Passover was yesterday. Our Passover is next week. It's like, man, there's one day.
Mm-hmm. Very
Somebody's
simple.
wrong. That's when you got to look at it. Somebody's wrong. Somebody's right.
Con.
And there's only one way, though. We want to be in the number to be right.
It's very easy, Israel. Let's not make this difficult. The new moon after the equinox, which is spring, you count 15 days. That's simple, right?
That's
You
it.
want to Baruch 2?
Yeah, chapter 2 and verse 28.
Baruch chapter 2, verse 28. As thou speakest by the servant Moses in the day when thou didst command him to write thy law before the children of Israel, saying, If ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations where I will scatter them.
So it was prophesied, if we did not listen, we'll be gone and dispersed among the nations. That's all throughout the Bible. That's the curses, okay? But in order to come back, we have to obey what the scriptures say. So just like Tobit, when he would keep the laws in his land when he was there, but when he was taken captive, he kept doing the laws, but he did them where he was at. Just like you have to do them where you are. You keep the Sabbath in your respective locations. You got to keep the rest of the feast days in your respective location. Anyone saying, oh, well, you got to be in Jerusalem or you can't keep it, you know, they're trying to get you to go away from what the scriptures are saying. Okay. Do not hear to that. Read on.
Verse 30, for I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people.
Israel's hard-headed. Read on.
But in the land of their captivities,
in the land of their captivities, what will happen?
They shall remember themselves.
They're going to remember themselves. What does it mean to remember yourself? Meaning that you're going to remember who you are. You're going to start to understand that you're an Israelite. And with being an Israelite, there's laws that we have to follow, because the first thing you learned coming into this truth was what? The curses. Well, how are we going to start getting away from the curses? We have to start doing the law. The law is what gets us away from the curses to receive the blessings. And part of the law is what? The feast days. We can't neglect the feast days because I'm over here in New Mexico, and I'm over here in China. I'm over here in LA, and you're over there in Dallas. We can't keep them. But didn't Christ say the hour cometh when you will worship the Father outside of Jerusalem?
Absolutely.
So if you look at it, our forefathers kept the law wherever they were. Abraham, he was in Ur of Chaldees. He was living amongst Chaldeans, and he was found righteous. And he was told to move to the land of Canaan. We was in Joseph, upright. He was in Egypt as a servant. And the rest of the tribes went into Egypt. And what happened? The Most High taught them the law. Moses taught them the Passover, and they kept it in the land of Egypt. And guess what? They wandered in the wilderness for how long? 40 years, right?
40 years.
Well, they kept the Passover 40 times
40
in the
years.
wilderness,
outside
of Jerusalem. So if anyone's saying I can't keep that,
and you know what's funny? That law about keeping the feast days in Jerusalem was given in the wilderness, correct?
What's that?
That law that we have to go 3 times a year to Jerusalem, wasn't that
Absolutely.
given? That was given in the wilderness.
That's right.
But we didn't have the city yet, so we still have to keep it.
Because the Most High was showing you that he would put his name in Jerusalem, and that's where he wanted to be the central. But that didn't mean that was the only place that we would keep them. That's
like Moses didn't say just wait. Yeah, he didn't say just wait until we get Jerusalem.
Right. Absolutely. So can we keep the feast outside of Jerusalem? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. You keep the new moons and Sabbaths according to your respective time zones too. So don't let that confuse you. Okay. We eat the Passover.
Yep.
You know, we already established the fact of which moon would be the one that you need to look at. That's where Israel is. You're gonna have to really get in and do your homework, and you're gonna really have to make that decision. You know, then you have some that say, well, just do the best you can do. And, you know, we understand some people don't know. You have to, that's all you can do is do the best you can do. But there's ways out there, and the scriptures kind of show us. Remember, it says, study to show thyself approved, right? So you have to, there's avenues, there's research, there's information, there's tools that's available for you to help you in your education and in your search. So don't neglect those things. Don't just say chalk it up and say, well, we in captivity. That's us, that's the best. No, you got to always look for, remember, scripture says knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of thy times and
Mm-hmm.
strength of salvation.
Yep.
So you have to learn, you have to understand. You got people adding in knowledge and you can't get. Man, look, what you don't know could very well hurt you too.
God.
So sometimes we get it. People are coming in, they don't have a congregation of, you're gonna have to do the best. But when you're in the scriptures and you coming together, brother, iron sharpens iron. You guys got to get together and really look to say, let's narrow this down, man. Which one are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? Which way is right? Is it the full? Is it the new? Is it dark? Is it the crescent? Which one are we gonna do? How are we gonna keep this? Is it a lunar Sabbath? The scriptures are clear with what they show. So it's really no refuting that. We keep the scriptures. The Most High gave us examples of and told us we would be keeping these feasts even in our captivity. So someone to tell you that you can only do it in Jerusalem, that's crazy. That's crazy.
It's crazy. I would never listen to that.
Man.
Never listen. Never listen to something that deters you from the law. That's from Satan. Easy.
Man, big time.
Easy.
Big time. But yeah, I think that calendar would be a good help for brothers.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to maybe we can put something together and put it out
for the people. For sure, definitely.
Con.
But I mean, is there anything else that we didn't cover?
No, I just want to clarify that you have to be circumcised to eat the Passover.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. You can go into that.
Yeah, Con. What is that? Numbers? Is that Numbers?
Actually.
Huh?
It's in Exodus 12.
Yeah. Let me see. I just want to get that real quick because.
And it's you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, what is that? What verse is that?
It's Exodus 12 and verse 48.
Oh, 48. I'm over here in 38. Okay, Con, I was in 38.
Yeah, I started verse 7. It says, all the congregation of Israel shall keep it. Mm-hmm. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof.
That's simple. No uncircumcised person can eat the lamb. No uncircumcised person can eat the lamb. All right. So if you're not circumcised, you got to get circumcised. All right. Because no uncircumcised person can eat the lamb. Also, right. Sisters, if you're on your menstrual cycles, all right, you cannot eat the lamb. All right. If you touch the dead body, you cannot eat the lamb. Okay. So remember, that is the only sacrifice that we're still required to give. It is an holy oblation. So, but I just want to touch on that. If you're not circumcised, you cannot eat the lamb. Sisters, if you're on your time of the month, you cannot eat the lamb. Brothers, for whatever reason, if you go to a funeral and you touch a dead body, you cannot eat the lamb if Passover is coming up. I just want to get that real quick because I know we're coming up on that 3-hour mark. But you cannot eat the lamb if you're not circumcised. But that was pretty much it, Elder.
One thing too is that and if kind of going back to what you were saying about being unclean, if someone can't attend for whatever reason, you have to do it the second month.
Bart, real quick, that was Salakia. That was Exodus chapter 12, verse 47.
48.
Oh,
47, 48.
47, 48. We read Exodus 12, 47, 48 for the circumcision. Okay. You want to go to the second Passover, Elder? That's in Numbers, I know for sure.
Yeah.
Numbers 18.
Numbers 9.
All right. And for whatever reason, if you do miss it, Numbers chapter 9, I'll read verse 6. And there were certain men who were defiled by dead body of a man, that they could not keep the Passover on that day. And they came before Moses and before Aaron on that day. And those men said unto him, We are defiled by the dead body of a man. Wherefore are we kept back, that we may not offer an offering of the Lord in his appointed season among the children of Israel. And
Mm-hmm.
Moses said unto them, Stand still, and I will hear what the Lord will command concerning you. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or by a journey afar off, meaning you just can't make it, yet he shall keep the Passover unto the Lord. The
Mm-hmm.
14th day of the second month at even they shall keep it and eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They
Mm-hmm.
shall leave none of it unto the morning, nor break any bone of it, according to all the ordinances of the Passover, they shall keep it.
So you see that, the Most High is showing you how important it is that if you can't, for whatever reason, make it, then you are to keep it on the 14th day even of the second month. And you would do it exactly the same as you would do it on the first month. Got to remove the leaven. You have to, make sure that you have unleavened bread prepared, whatever. You would cook it the same way, do exactly the same thing. And one thing I want to clarify, when it says a journey afar off, that don't mean you went on vacation and you just
Mm-hmm.
neglected the feast. That means that there's something completely out of your control. Okay. A journey afar off, meaning that if you went somewhere and say you got stranded and you couldn't get back and you couldn't keep the feast, or you were incarcerated, or maybe you were hospitalized or something like that, that means it was something outside of your control.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the ability to do it on the second month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's what that's talking about.
And then also too, um, yes, Don, you still have to keep unleavened bread. You just can't eat the Passover, and you can't go to the Passover. But you have to still eat unleavened bread and keep the ordinances of unleavened bread. You just can't eat at the Passover. So yes, you still have to celebrate the feast of unleavened bread. You just can't eat the Passover. And then the scripture that we read, the two scriptures we just pulled was Exodus 12:47 to 48. And also we just read Numbers chapter, what was that, 9? Numbers chapter
Yeah.
9, verses 6, all the way down to what, 13? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, hope that answers you guys' questions. But yeah, Elder, look like we're coming on that 3 hour mark, 10 minutes to 3 hours. God, all praises. Yeah, family. Also, too, before we close out, I want to let you guys know that I'm out here in the Bay Area. So if anybody is in the Bay Area, please email us. All right. If you want to get in contact with us, I'm gonna put the email back in the chat. If you want to get in contact with us, please email us. I am in the Bay Area. I'll be out here for some days. Oh shoot, I done messed up. Hold on one second. And tomorrow we're going out. So if you want to hit the streets with us and you're in the Bay Area, then feel free to contact us, email us, and we'll send you that information. At our email, believersoftheway144k@gmail.com. But with that, I hope the class was edifying. Elder, did you have anything else?
That's it, man. That's it. I think we're good. So everyone, start preparing. Let's prepare mentally, physically to really, go in, do these commandments, y'all.
All praises. All right, family, tune in tomorrow, 4:30 class. What we on, Western Pacific time? Right?
Pacific
Pacific.
Standard.
Yeah, I always
Pacific.
we on the
We're on
West
the
Coast.
West Coast on Pacific.
Yeah, we're on the West
Pacific
Pacific
Standard
side.
is what they call.
Yeah. Yeah, so tune in to class tomorrow, 4:30, and we'll see you guys then, most high willing, tomorrow, 4:30. Shalom, family.
Shalom, shalom, Israel. Kwame Yashala.
Kwame Yasharala.
All right, Rata, I'll holler at you.
All right, Elder. We'll talk later.
All
We'll
right,
talk
bro.
later. All right,
All right.
shalom.